Yo. And not exactly getting the best of me today. Um, I got back from work an hour late and about 20 minutes ago. So that's that. Zach is on his way, but his computer decided it need to update. So he's doing that. Um, and Russ is doing what he loves best, staying away from me. So, no, just tired family obligations or something along those lines. So, yeah, how you all doing? It is rookie season. I've started to, I wouldn't say I've started to dive in. I've put out the data and I have glanced across it, trying to get a sense of the tiers available at each position, and been really frustrated by the overall model result of Xavier Worthy. While really liking his individual stat profile in general, has mostly been my what would you call it? Stat experience, my rookie profile depth so far. But until Zach gets here, I'm the best you got, apart from all the other live shows that are probably available right now. But welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. We live stream every Wednesday from 9:30-ish until we get tired or run out of questions or both. And we'll be happy to do that tonight as well. I don't know what all the are about, other than apparently that's the thing that happens when I'm live and very tired. So let's get into it. I lied. Zach is actually here. No, he just turned up in time to save us. How you doing, Zach?
Not too bad. How are you this evening? You look good. You look good.
Exhausted. Yeah, there was a safety end of year safety thing before shift today, and I thought, oh, this is gonna suck when it's my turn to leave because you have to hand off to the next. And it took like half an hour. I was like, man, that's gonna suck. And then an hour went by after I was meant to leave. I was like, wow, they must have had more questions than we did. So yeah, I'm here. You're a lot further and have been for a while into rookie research. I was just looking over it again while I had a few minutes before, knowing that you were going to be late as well. And yeah, I got some names, but I can't really pull anything up on my stream dies. I've asked you about Jacob Cowling, I think his name is before. I think he's just going to be a later breakout lower conference compiler, but he's someone I'm going to have to look into based on his overall stats in terms of the unlikely. And also Xavier Worthy, like his score comes in below average for me for a top 3 NFL draft pick. But I love the parts that I've looked at. His profile is excellent. It's mostly his drafted rate, which I think I might have to fix because my conferences look a little off right now. But I absolutely love his profile.
Well, so Worthy is gonna be. I'm kind of excited to hear you say that you like his profile.
Well, I've looked across the line.
He's no, but
too much into it,
but he's going to be a player that I am probably going to end up higher on than a lot of the draft nicks. Like, and again, this is just kind of how I grade, but he ended up as my 3rd wide receiver right now. I mean, I've only gone through 12, so we're not at the end all be all yet, but I'm glad.
People like to point to a thing that says they're good, and that's really not the way to do this, by the way.
Right.
If you're still on he did this many yards per route run and therefore he was good, like, stop it, honestly. But if you want something like a too long didn't read that I'll drop on podcast appearances, he's so far, and I imagine I'm missing some IDs, to be honest with you, because I don't have all of them. I've got, how many wide receivers in 2024 I got right now? I got quite a few. 57. Okay. But I'm sure I'm missing someone. But he is the only wide receiver with a breakout age with a 30% dominator rating under the age of 19. He broke out in his first year. His wide receiver 1 his first year.
Yeah.
At the age of 18. And there's only 3 players I've so far got in this class that did it under the age of 20. And the other 2, one's Jacob Cowing, who I asked you about. I'm pretty sure is going to work out to be nothing, but he's interesting. He's someone I'm going to have to look at. The other one's worse. Maybe. But Orondo Gadsden?
Yeah, so he's Syracuse. I haven't.
Yeah.
Well, his father played in the NFL. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I haven't watched him yet either, but will be. There are a couple of those. So Orondo Gadsden's son is coming out. Jerry Rice's son is coming. You may have heard of him. I mean, even
Brendan.
Yeah.
He's the only other Rice I've got it.
Yeah.
I was like, that must be him. He came in with an average top 3 NFL draft pick score on my model, which is not bad. But I don't know, he doesn't stand out for the things I glance across to like, if you know what I mean, which is mostly his receiving yards per team pass attempt. I look at their career total and also their average. Tends to be the first things I look at. And then yards per route runs right next to that. And it's all right. No Jerry Rice.
Well, no. I mean, but
a Brendan Rice. Rice. Yes. And Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah. I mean, we're at that stage where like it makes me feel old because we're hitting, and it's the same way with baseball where like I watched the original Vladimir Guerrero and I watched Dante Bichette and his son is playing, like Biggio, like all these players that are coming up, and now the NFL doing it. And I'm like, man, I'm old.
When the children of your childhood heroes start becoming other people's heroes, that's weird. That's weird.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
But like Malik Nabers came in as a clear second, like a very solid second. Yeah, but I like that's where Worthy gets interesting to me because I think their profiles, I can't figure out why he's so much lower on my model score, but yeah, it's his drafted rate pretty much. His profile edges him out in most of the key areas that I look at first. So like I think I like Worthy more than Nabers, but Nabers looks great, don't get me wrong. Like really good.
Well, so Neighbors is a top 10.
Neighbors, okay, sorry.
Yeah. So Neighbors is a top 10 that I've watched, like from 2017 on. Like he's top 10. So there are 2 top 10 wide receivers, like all-time wide receivers in this group.
Nice. Well, for me, I mean, like 2, but like a lot of this is taking off the things I already heard. I'm like, okay, at least those 2 at the top, and everyone likes them already, so at least it's doing something right. Yeah. It's capturing something. And yeah, no real questions there. Looking at the running backs, I saw you. I know I'm meant to be talking to you guys in the chat, but I haven't seen Zach in a week. Give me a minute. Yeah, running backs. You said in the chat somewhere that it was actually, or someone did, that it was better than people have been saying. I was very disappointed looking at it, but when I heard you say that, I went back and looked. And I was like, yeah, there's nothing like a Gibbs or a Bijan Robinson or a Jonathan Taylor pro. There's nothing like that. But it's the way I was thinking of describing it is this running back class starts at Tank Bigsby. Like, yeah,
maybe a little, yeah,
and
maybe
there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So
from like right now. So I've watched 6 running backs. 5 of them would fall in somewhere between Charbonnet and Bigsby for me last year.
Yeah, that's
and
exactly my feeling.
There were only 3
and we like
guys.
Those guys.
Yeah,
we were talking about them as early second round picks, exciting early mid second round picks, and that's I can see that. Yeah, there's a Frank Gore.
But wow, Blake. What? Speaking of Frank Gore Jr.'s in this one. So here we are. Yeah. But like Blake Corum, who is he's a little undersized. He's 5'8", 200. Like, he's legit. Yeah. Like, you throw him in a Shanahan system where like they run at light fronts and pass at heavy fronts, and he's going to be really good.
Yeah, Frank Gore Jr. and Blake Corum come back to back to me again. That's just top of the model score.
Yeah,
but and like 2 at the top, I don't think I've heard one of these names before, which is probably a bad thing. Audric Estime.
Yep.
Estime.
Yeah,
And
I
then
don't. Yeah.
Roman Davis. Sorry to just throw names at you because that's the way my process goes. I'm like, hey, look at all these names. That's fun.
So Roman Davis is Ray Davis that in that
I looked up Ray Davis, didn't exist. It must be this guy.
Yeah. So but yeah, I've heard like that Matt has been on him fairly heavy already. So
very solid profile, like career average, career total 8% target share, which is fine.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. There's only him and Jonathan Brooks actually hit that, and then what else was I going to say about Davis? Adjusted yards per team attempt 1.36. It's not. It's very Tank Bigsby-esque. It's like yeah.
Yeah, like it is. Like it's not a high peak, but there's a plateau there. Yeah, there's a good flat plateau. There's a mesa.
Starts in the second round, but it's a nice second round. It's and then Brock Bowers and the 2 quarterbacks just off the top. Pretty easy. So that's it. That's a rookie draft solved. You guys go do well in your rookie draft now. Genji I'm trying, man. Jacob Cowing. I think he's going to drop off the minute I investigate, but his numbers, his career total and average numbers look interesting enough that they deserve investigation. Ben Sinnott.
I haven't got that. So Genji, I won't be deep into this until probably the first week in April, maybe the second, because like we start going for real with the Hootenanny in February, like mid-February, and so we'll go 2 running back shows, 2 wide receiver shows, a quarterback tight end show. So that gets us through February, March, and then into early April. I'll be starting to look at catch-all. So like, hit me up with these names of people that you want me to look at for the catch-all show, but we're not to the catch-all show. It takes me, I feel bad because it takes me a long time to watch these players because I'm going between 8 and 12 games of every single player because I don't feel like I can't do what Peter does where I can't like scrape the data and have the entire career. But for me, I have to start at the beginning of a career and watch games and kind of traverse that forward to now. So I get a picture of what they were, how they changed, what they are now, whether they have potential to continue growing or not. And if I don't watch enough games, I don't feel like I have that. And so I'm not down in the let's find hidden gems yet. I'm still in the I'm looking at the names that everybody has heard to kind of parse out where I think they are. And once I have probably 15 or 20 at each position, then I will start picking up. I'll talk to Peter and be like, hey, who pops in your in your sheet, because he can trawl, he can throw out the net and just kind of take his fishing boat around and trawl, and I have to hand fish. I have to cast a line, and so I'll ask him where the good fishing spots are before I start casting lines for the real deep names.
Say it like it's so easy. Yeah, you cast a net, but then you still have to go in and look through the content to end up hand fishing. Just you grab it all at once and you work through it.
Yeah.
So my process at the moment is basically just checking that it's doing roughly the right things. Again, Harrison and Neighbors coming up towards the top seems to fulfill it, getting a sense of the class. Like I was talking about the tiers on the podcast I recorded last night. Like where the top tiers are at each position, how the positions relate to each other, just getting a sense of the overall class. And that's about where I'm at. I'm learning names and rough profiles. And the thing about the net is I can pick out, outside of the big names, because I'm going to go look at the lists, and see who's in the top 12, who I don't have added yet, and stuff like that. And I work through those, but also just who stands out to me that I like, the Cowan guy. And then I'm just going to go take a first look through. Like, gives me a priority list more than anything else.
But that's the thing about this class too, though, is that I've noticed is there are a lot of like 4th, 5th, 6-year seniors because we've been talking about this for a couple of years because you've had
a somewhat older class.
Well, but you've had with COVID, they've changed the requirements to transfer, and they've allowed players to have extra years of eligibility. And so, like, I was joking the other day in a chat. Someone asked me about one of the quarterbacks, and I was just like, he should have stayed one more year because he could have been a doctor. I mean, he's already been in for 6 years. I mean, what's one more? But and plus, like Dr. Penix has a ring to it, and Michael Penix may be the 4th quarterback off the board. Like he could end up being one of those drafted quarterbacks in the first round, but he's also a 6-year senior.
I went looking for Ben Genji, and my sheet's now stuck in a perpetual loop of trying to unfilter about a bajillion columns because I'm every now and again I make the mistake of making things easy for myself by filtering some of the background data, and that's always a bad idea because it takes about 2 weeks to unfilter it because Excel's got to remember where everything goes. So yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Bryson Nesbitt. I'll write that name down too. It hasn't come up yet. These are just names. These are just names. Have you guys found any? You're already to the under the radar players. You're going to be so bored of our ranks by the time they matter, and you want them now. But right now, I know my top 3 wide receivers are something like Harrison, Worthy, Neighbors. I might put Worthy above Neighbors pre-draft just because I think that's about how much I like them. But apparently, they're going to fall, and I imagine Neighbors are going to get better draft capital.
Yeah, I Worthy is kind of a right now, at least as far as I can tell, and I base this on Travis May because he is about as sharp as it gets with in terms of compiling draft, like how things will shake out.
Also, he's just plugged into college and what people.
Yeah, so Harrison ought to be a top 5 pick. He may be a top 3 pick. Neighbors ought to be a first round pick. Worthy is kind of like could be a first rounder, could be a second rounder, probably won't fall out of the second round. It's going to be interesting, Peter, because a lot of people are going to base his evaluation on what they saw in 2 bowl games. And he had a bunch of drops in his bowl game last year, and then this year he didn't really show out against Washington as well as people hoped. And there was one ball that was kind of thrown on the wrong shoulder, and he turned around the wrong way, and so I think people are and Jake Anderson made a comment about him dropping a whole bunch of balls, and I'm like, well, yeah, but the guy had a broken hand last year, and still led the team in receptions. So maybe playing one bowl game with a broken hand and having 3 drops isn't the end all be all. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that shakes out. Are you you look like you're frozen, Pete. Oh yeah, Pete's frozen. We'll keep rocking and rolling. So Genji asks, Superflex 12 team, Anthony Richardson or Drake London and the 108. I think that, Genji, you probably can get more for Richardson than Drake London and the 108. And I probably would hang on to Richardson, even though I do think Richardson is a sell right now or heading into the season. He's already a top 10 quarterback, which is what you had kind of hoped. Maybe he produces as a top 4, but I don't necessarily see him kind of sustaining that. But I think that you're going to see him climb as we head into the season because he's back healthy. He's going to start. And I would not give him up for London and the 108 yet. I think you can get more. I think that I would rather have Richardson than London and a pick after what I think is a teardrop. Pete, you back?
Can you hear me again yet?
I can. I got you.
I mean, it's touch and go. I'm going to stop playing with my rookie data. That's what I'm going to do.
I've heard that before.
I'm working on it. Yeah, right. What were you saying about Jake?
Oh, I said Jake was down on Xavier Worthy because of a couple of drops in an island game.
Oh, okay.
But
what would he know? He liked John Mingo.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Okay, finally crashed it. Okay. Nice. All right, that should clear me up. I just crashed my college database. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Benson Ott is a tight end, though. I did find out while I was lagging out there. What was the trade question you were talking about? That Pete, not sure.
Oh, it's the next one down from the question you got pulled up. The 12 team.
I would say Genji Rum Odunze. Zach mentioned him or talked about him last week a little bit. He stands out to me again, just glancing across the old position profile as someone I've got to look at closer. He comes in around Worthy, but again, I think Worthy's profile is underrated. Odunze looks like he's underrated in the same area. I didn't like his profile as much as I did Worthy, just looking along the lines, as it were. But he is someone clearly I think that ought to be higher than my model is currently suggesting.
And Odunze this past year had a really great year. I mean, and
that's probably what it is, because I try and balance progression versus peak.
Yeah.
So
it's his fourth year in, but he really took a step forward. To me right now, if you said, hey, what's your top five, I would say it's Harrison Jr. with a clear tier by himself. It's Neighbors in the tier by himself at 2, and then it's Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr. and Rome Odunze in a tier of 3.
Brian Thomas is a name. I don't know that many names right now. I know 2 I know are going to be high drafted in rookie drafts. I don't know about the NFL. And that's Harrison and Neighbors. Get it out the way. I don't think anyone's surprised. I think Worthy belongs in that conversation. That one's pretty clear to me coming off. I have to look closer because he's not jumping out that way from the model.
Yeah,
but my eyes on my old spreadshirt eye test say they should be up there. Brian Thomas Jr. is pretty high ranked in the model, and it's not a name I'd come across before. So again, I'm gonna have to fact check him. But the other guys, Roman Dunze, those are basically the names I know, and the ones I clearly, and Cowing, who I'm dead sure is just going to turn out to be nothing. One of those stats are different from certain conferences, and I think it's going to be that thing, but I'm going to look. But Odunze looks like he's one of those guys I do need to look at more. He's below Worthy for me right now, literally because Worthy, just looking along, I was like, I like that profile despite the model. Odunze was that score probably should be higher, but I want to check it isn't just because of a single breakout year or one bad conference that he played in, or a high ADOT, low volume kind of a guy, because I honestly don't even know that much about him yet. Superflex 12 team, Anthony Richardson or Drake London in the 108. There's a trade you were talking about. London in the 108, please. But Zach's probably right in the Superflex. It's a quarterback. It's a quarterback who's already valued in the top 10, did you say? I think
he's QB9 right now in the latest Superflex, the DLF ADP.
Something I was trying to get into the podcast I was recorded last night. I don't know how well I managed to. It's all about your league, too. The question is, what can you more easily flip into things we wouldn't question? Like, your list might be different than mine, but I think a lot of them will be similar. You've got Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I've got Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. I would put CJ Stroud in there. You've got Sam Laporta, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. How far down does the list go? I think around about T. Higgins is where it gets a little skittish for me. But above that, you're worth more than an early pick, and below that, not. So anyone in that range that I can get for an early pick, I would. But in your league, if it's easier to trade Anthony Richardson into that tier of players, I want Anthony Richardson. ADP and the fact it's Superflex to me means that should be the case. So I say Anthony Richardson. But if in your league, you know everyone hates Anthony Richardson because they're just full of a bunch of PA howdy wannabes, because I actually don't like him that much, but I know where his value is, then London and the 108 is probably going to do more for you in making trades to try and get someone in that tier, if that makes better sense. That's basically what I was trying to say about draft picks last night. It's about, I want the top value things. You want all your team to be the best things you think exist in the NFL. We rarely get there, but that's ultimately the goal. So the question is, what helps get me there better? Now, a top 3 pick, wherever you think the top tier is in a rookie class, becomes one of those top value things, because I'll take my risk in the rookie draft. Thank you very much. So I will make the picks on Harrison and Neighbors and Caleb Williams and Drake May, I think, is the other quarterback, and so on and so forth. I'm not looking to trade out of those picks unless I'm getting a really great deal on one of those players who is already a boat, if you know what I mean, like really adjusted for the fact that they can't be playing in the rookie season again, you know? So you get a good deal on it. Outside of that, it's about what are the things I'm trading for and trading away, and which can make me better deals to get into that tier. That's kind of the way I think of most trade questions that come at me with around the rookie draft season. I think in most leagues, Richardson does a far better job for you of getting one of those players that neither you nor I, English, would question should be valued there. I don't want Anthony Richardson. I want one of those. I want Patrick Mahomes. I want Kyler Murray. I want Lamar Jackson. I think Richardson helps you get there better, all to a top 3 pick.
Yeah.
But if in your league that's not the case, the opposite side could well be the best answer. Because, in Superflex, a lot of people like me could have, I'll wait till I see it for a full season kind of an attitude. So that's the only thing I throw out extra with rookie trade questions. Neither of these sides should be your end goal. Essentially, I don't see anything here. I'm heavily like that's a thing I want, and so the question becomes, what helps me get to the things that I want the best? ADP and where value should be says Richardson should be the better side, but again, if you were trading with me, you'd probably have better luck with London and the 108.
Hey,
party hat guy, Dave's really stepping it up these days.
Well, he was on with Casey tonight, so he's excited. I don't blame him.
He's riding the high.
Yeah.
Stepping down, talking to us. Jamie, 3 big smiley face sunglasses, guys. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Don't know what it means, but I like it. Kevin, what's up? Love the off-season grind. Thank you, Kevin. Sorry I'm so exhausted and making it terrible, but Zach's here to make up for it. So. Shaneka 17. Superflex start 12, only 8 teams. I have the 101, the 103. QBs are Dak, Mayfield. It's a Superflex, so they matter. Mayfield, Bruss, pretty solid. Thinking of going Marvin Harrison Jr. and Neighbors. Crazy? Not crazy at all. Those two and Caleb Williams right now seem like the top 3 picks. Drake May, I don't know enough about, but he's a quarterback who's probably going to get high drafted, so maybe a little crazy. What I would say is your team doesn't affect who you should take. So it's really about what you think of Caleb Williams and Drake May, and you have to give them, no matter what you think, you think they're Trevor Lawrence or whatever. You give them a plus because quarterback value should get plussed up in a Superflex. That's the way I think about it. I want Harrison, but Williams wins if you're asking honestly. Like that, I feel it. But also it's rookie draft season, so you can just take your risk there. But you have to build your teams in a way that you can completely end up with a N'Keal Harry or a Traylon Burks, because I do quite often. You have to insulate yourself against the risk you're taking. I don't think your quarterback room is hot enough that avoiding who we expect to be like a really high drafted quarterback with a really good college profile is justified. So it's not based on your team. It's just that I don't think your team, based on the little bit that I know about it, is insulated in it. And the fact that it's only an 8-team league, you basically just need studs in your starting lineup is what that means to me. And I think Williams has a better chance of being that for you. Dak had another one of his years. He's less likely to do that every year than Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. He's more a top 12 guy on a year-to-year basis. Well, he has what he just did in his range of outcomes because he's done it once before. And so you really don't have a dependable top-flight quarterback, and Williams could end up being that. And so you should probably value the 101 as Williams, and you get the whatever wide receiver is still left at the 103, and you're doing great. If you don't want to do that, then you have to investigate trades. If those are the two you want, I would trade the 101 as if it is Caleb Williams. But it's your team at the end of the day. I don't think that's crazy. It's your team. It's fine. But if you're asking for where my head would be at, if that were my team, that's what I would be thinking. I want to take these two wide receivers, but I think Williams is the 101. So what trades can I make to do it? Might be the direction I'd go.
Yeah,
Dak, I talked for a long time there.
No, I like that. I like where you came back around to. It's one of those where if you have the 101 and you can get up into, Kyler Murray or one of those quarterbacks that is up above Kyler Murray with the 101, I think that's a win. But also to your point, it's not the end all be all crazy if you draft the two wide receivers. Again, they're top tier wide receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 3 like it's literally CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson that I've ever graded above where Harrison is. Like that's it since 2017. So you've got 6 years of data to go along with that, and then
it's actually a really good name to throw out there with the risk of the wide receiver, though, because remember that CeeDee Lamb has had value ups and downs. I had to convince people who were still in his breakout window last year. People were out by last year, but he's been solid, and wide receiver can be a little muted, whereas quarterbacks that have hit recently, CJ Stroud, I don't know why I'm going back to Justin Herbert, but you hit those guys and they do well early, and it's just a lot better. Of course, you've also got Young in his range of outcomes, but I think Young's downturn is not as bad as JSN's downturn, even though we both think they have better days ahead value-wise, because it's a super flex, and so quarterbacks get this extra insulation. Look at Richardson, he missed most of the season. But again, it is your team, and those are two elite tier players in this year's class, and that's about the range that you should feel pretty comfortable taking them. So yeah, not crazy at all, but that's where my thought process would lead. Kevin, 10-team Superflex start 10. How much would you buy Trevor for? Trevor Lawrence, I'm guessing. Guy wants the 105 and 24, 201, 206. This is a super flex, and you're only giving away one first-round pick. Pickens,
and Pickens is a first-round pick too. Like
yeah, but
so the 105 Pickens Mayer.
Yeah, it's like the 105, the 109, and 2 seconds. And I mean, he's asking for a package, but there's nothing that scares me. I would probably take
for Trevor, Schultz, and more. You upgraded tight end there. I think Schultz is probably better than Mayer. I mean, Mayer's fine, but you're hoping he does what Schultz has done.
Sure, I think his value will be better if he does, but I'm not going to argue it.
It absolutely will be, because he's a tight end that it was identified, and so we're going to be excited if he does Schultz things. Yep. But
I really don't think this feels high to me, though. This feels very, very good. He's asking for a lot, but it's like when you try and throw a package at someone for an elite asset, and they go, "No, I don't want a smattering of your crap for my gold nugget." He's giving you the smattering of stuff for the Nugget. So I would take the Nugget. It would suck to be out of the rookie draft this early on in the process. I get that feeling. Don't get me wrong. Like, look at all the great things in this rookie draft, and it's going to be a pretty good rookie draft that I could get. And you're giving them all up right now before you even get into the rookie season. That kind of sucks. But value-wise, I think Lawrence should easily win this.
Yeah, because it's Lawrence. Essentially, to me, this boils down to Lawrence for Pickens and the 105. I mean, the other things kind of all cancel each other out. I know people get excited about second-round picks, but they don't hold much value to me. And so that's really what
10 team is a little different than 12 team. I was just wondering if Lawrence is really as hot. Yeah, no, that's fine. I was going to say you reduce the league size to 10 and Lawrence is a little less sexy. But I think, no, I'm still in at that value. Yeah. Brian. Brain? I'm never quite sure, Brain, sorry. Zach looked like a trick-or-treater who just got a king-size candy bar when you mentioned Xavier Worthy. It's the way it works sometimes. I was happy to hear him mention Brian Thomas. When, again, I know it's stupid because I'm looking to be different. I'm looking for where I'm going to be different than other people. Obviously, like, where's your low-hanging fruit guys or the under-the-radar guys was the first question. But the idea of making a model is that it captures stuff without me having to pay attention to college. And when 4 of the top 5 guys are already well liked by people who have actually done real work, that feels pretty good. That's my king-size candy bar. Xavier Worthy, is it because of how good his rookie season was? His rookie season was great, but his subsequent seasons were also
he led the team in receptions all 3 years. Like he was
and receiving
yards, reception. Like he was very good. To me, he does a lot of things that I like to see, and I can if I come over here and grab my notebook, I have write-ups, sort of. I mean, I don't have the full write-ups yet, but I have write-ups, sort of. And so, again, like plays with really great pace and change of speed within route. These are things that I said about Jordan Addison last year. I mean, it kind of is ringing that way. He has speed to take the top off the defense and will make plays deep, but he's also really good at finding holes between levels of zone defenses, is very good at reading and beating the safety, both in man coverage and in zone. So in zone, the safety has to either cheat up and you're forcing him to come up and make a play on you. And when that happens, Xavier Worthy is really good at making a double move where he'll like feign like he's stopping. So he'll do like a hitch and go or something like that, slant and go. And get over the top. Or if the safety is playing deep, he reads that cushion and he'll go flat out like he's trying to take the top off, and then he'll slam on the brakes and run a hitch or a curl and be open and is very good at that. I do think that he does struggle with concentration drops, and they come in clusters. Drops are overrated. Sometimes he struggles against press coverage, can be manipulated by a physical defender. Some of the drops are a bad ball issue. There were so many times where he would be deep and the ball would be like 3 feet behind him and 4 feet out of bounds. And you're like, that's not on Worthy. And he does have a habit of trying to split zones on a cross rather than kind of seam and verticality. But like, again, these are nitpicking things. And I really, really like a lot of what he does, both against man coverage and against zone. And one of the things that I look at a ton, especially with a player, Worthy, I think is going to be that like wide receiver 1 from a 2. And with that type of player, like I want to see them consistently beat zone defenses, and he absolutely does.
Gedgie, I want you to note the differences because we can talk about the same thing and they're 2 completely different subjects. Because I'm really interested in this idea of, is it better to be good early or progress late. That was a conversation for the last 5-6 years, I feel. But I think the conversation's moved on to being a little more sophisticated, and there's players who peak early and then don't improve. From my perspective, again, Zach's talking about real world football skills and whether they develop and what they have developed. I'm talking about from a numbers perspective. So I want you to note that I'm talking about very different thing back to back from something that sounds more real world and realistic.
But
For
we're
example,
talking about the same thing. Like
that's the thing.
it's from a different
We're talking about
perspective.
progression and development, but I'm not talking about the progression and development of his ability to play football.
Right.
If you see what I mean. And so I think getting those into mix, because they sound very similar, can sometimes it can be why stats seem to lie. Sometimes they're just wrong, sure, or they don't indicate a positive hit. But anyway, that's a side point. I'm talking about in his first year, he was over 2.2, I think it was, receiving yards per team pass attempt. That stat tells you what it is, so I don't have to define it. And the way to think of it is it's basically what it is a better measure of volume in a real world terms. Instead of you dominating or percentages, which don't seem to scale well, receiving yards per team pass attempt crosses from team to team because it adjusts for the amount they're actually passing. And so it's more comparable from one player to the other without having to do any fancy math. That's why I like it, because it's fairly simple. It tells you what it is, and it's a fairly accurate versus all other stats. Predictive stat by itself isn't, you can't rank by it, for example, but it's a fairly good stat for that, especially when you're considering similar conference levels, actually. But anyway, there's really only two. But so he does that early. In his second year, and again, I haven't looked into this deep, but I did pull up his years to take a good glance. He drops to like 1.6, 1.7, which is below average. But there's another wide receiver whose name I do not remember, who's also averaging around about the same. Wide receivers don't take each other's opportunity, but they do kind of level the playing field, and they help each other out because they're helping the team out. You've heard that speech from me a number of times. So I'm not saying he got stuff taken from him, but there definitely does seem to be an interplay going into year two. Now, as to your question of he didn't get any better, I think the question is, does that matter? I'm not going to tell you I have that answer, but I do think it would be interesting to go back and look at prospects that did well, see the ones that peaked early, and if they continue to peak. From my memory, and I haven't studied it this exact way because I've been too busy answering the simpler and easier question of, is it better to do better early? Yes. Very easy. But I've taken 5 years now and I've convinced maybe 5 people, but it's actually really, really obvious and hard and really important. But I think it's a better question. Is it better to peak early and then develop, or peak early and that's all that matters? I think it'd be interesting to go back and look at that. And you've got my data, or you could do it through your own, or you could do it through tape, if remembering you're talking about a very different thing. In terms of the real world things that we're talking about. I don't think it's important. I think what I'm trying to see, because if you walk in at age 18 able to dominate volume on a fairly high level college team, I think that's good enough. I think that's the signal numbers can give you. After that, I think there are some questions. I have questions about Rondell Moore, about whether he was able to do that so early because he was such an athlete at such an undeveloped level of football. College players are immensely good at football, but compared to the NFL, they're amateurs, if you know what I mean. So an athlete has a better advantage over that level of football player than when you go to the NFL. You're up against similar level athletes which much more developed skill sets, or the finesses of the game, as it were. And I think you can get away with that extra advantage of your athleticism in college a little better. But someone like Worthy, or most of the other breakouts I'm thinking about, I don't think you see that clear progression. There's a quote from someone, and I've been trying to remember it all day for a different reason, but it was someone pointing out that savants or people who peak early, like child geniuses who get great at chess really early, or just like my wife, she was basically able to graduate high school by the age of 12 or something ridiculous, like ridiculously early. She didn't, because there's no point. She couldn't go on to college yet. You don't continue to progress that far ahead of everyone else. Eventually, everyone else catches up. It's what actually people told me about my kids when they were starting to read, and Sam was a little slower to learn to walk, for example. And they were like, well, they all catch up at eventually. And then eventually they're all 18 years old and they could walk. You don't get minus points for having learned it later. It's something everyone catches up with you at. What am I trying to say? I think good players are going to catch up by the end of their college career. That's why I do age adjusted. But I think just because you peak early and then don't continue to progress upwards, that's not a negative sign. They just learn to walk early. That doesn't mean they aren't able to walk. Some players progress upwards towards being able to walk in the NFL. Some show you straight away that they're able to work in the NFL. It doesn't mean one's necessarily better than the other, although the younger one is a more clearly stable signal because they're able to do it without physical and also training development in college. So I think it's a little easier to believe that they have the innate ability, but that's not everything. Like A.J. Brown peaked a little later at age 19, for example, because there's also opportunity questions of injuries and other players getting on the team. And so context is important. We're getting a little too deep into it, but that's because I think this is a really important question. And one you can develop. I don't think there is an answer to this question, but that's kind of, from my experience looking over stats, that's my ultimate answer. I don't think it's important that they do continue to develop. If you hit NFL level at age 18, you shouldn't expect them to hit super NFL level by the time they're 21 and ready to go to the NFL. They just showed you earlier. The idea that you're going to continuously progress up because you are a child prodigy is unrealistic. Ultimately, there's a cap on human ability, and you can't just continue to push that ceiling or your ability. So yeah, that's kind of where my mind goes on it. I think whether he was able to show you he was able to walk in the NFL earlier, I think expecting to show you he can fly in space by the time he graduate would be unrealistic. But again, you could actually go back, and I might be wrong, so I'm just going off memory here, and find that most prospects do actually develop, even if they peak a little earlier, Pete. I haven't actually studied it that way, but I do think it would be an interesting to go back and answer. But that's my current feeling on it. Sorry, I didn't mean to blather on that, but everything is there's an intricate question there that I actually think's interesting. Sorry, Zach.
No, you're good.
Kevin, that guy is a jackass. Me? Yeah, probably. I'd maybe pay just a 105 for Trevor. Oh, the trade partner. Really? Okay.
I think the 105 is light. Although I do think
really light.
But I do think that in this class the 105 is a really intriguing, like 105,
That's
106 true. Area is really intriguing because you got two quarterbacks. You got Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Bowers, who are all, to me, like, those are all blue chip pieces. But
yeah, I think.
But I still think it's still light for a quarterback.
You're going to get a really interesting player. I'd be happy to draft, but the risk of it's like the tight end. You know, there's going to be ups and downs, or like we just said about CeeDee Lamb. There's less certain sustainability of that value to their rookie career, but it should pay off eventually to be solid, whereas Trevor Lawrence is going to be a top 12 quarterback for you next year, and young still, and pretty good, but he's still in the Jaguars.
Yeah. And he hasn't been very good.
Well, he wasn't good last year, that's fair.
Yeah.
Was it Calvin Ridley that wasn't good, or Trevor Lawrence? Let's not do that. Who do you want to see win the Super Bowl the most, and why?
Detroit, because they're fun.
There you go. Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'd like to see it.
Bite some kneecaps. Let's go.
Let's go. In addition, who do you think will actually win? Chiefs.
Whoever wins between the Chiefs and the Bills. That's probably who wins. Although San Francisco may just roll everybody.
Oh, that's the fun team.
Yeah.
Jacob Cowing is this year's Tank Dell with round 3 draft capital. I don't know about that. I'm not ready to say something like that. I would say I'm liking Worthy for similar reasons that I immediately like Josh Downs, who was somewhat disappointing to end the season, but he just clearly stands out as someone who's very good in college, at least dominant in college. They don't always work out, but I can say that is true. Skull Dynasty, 12 team, 1 QB, start 8. Burrow, Cousins, Swift, Pollard, Ford, Herbert, Madison, Jefferson, Waddle, Cup, Deontay, JSN, Sutton, Mooney, Andrews, 204, and the 304, Swift, and JSN for Sun God. All of that?
No, I think he's saying, should I trade Swift and JSN for Amon-Ra St. Brown? And yes, you should if you can get that done. I would rather have St. Brown than Swift and JSN. I think it probably takes more than that.
Yeah. Boats for maybe boats is kind of Anthony, Vlad and his dad have the same swing. We're old. That's a
but Vlad Jr. has a little bit more. He's a little bit girthier than his dad was. I was at this makes me old. I used to go to games at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, and I was at a game where Vladimir Guerrero hit a ball off the bounce. So you can appreciate this, Peter, because it was cricket-esque. It came in and one hopped the plate, and Vlad was like, "Nah, I'm going to swing anyway," and he hit it off the facade of the upper deck in left field. He was amazing. Like, I've never seen a player that could hit a ball that was not pitched in the strike zone as far as Vlad could. But sorry, I don't mean to take over with baseball. But
Jamie, Frank Gore Jr. also declared this year.
Yeah.
Seems to have, Vladdy Jr., Bichette, and
it's Toronto Dave. They're all Blue Jays.
This means nothing to me. Frank and Henderson and Jake going back to college sucks for 2024. I updated for the latest Devi age table, and both of them were listed in 25. So I know that without knowing that. But yeah, they both look like solid prospects.
I didn't watch Henderson because he went back before I got to running backs. I did watch Egbuka. And initially, so probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, 6 or 7 weeks ago, before the NFL season got over, we were talking about this class. And I remember Peter saying to you, the top 2 wide receivers in this class may be from Ohio State. It may be Marvin Harrison Jr. and Egbuka. I started watching Emeka Egbuka and was incredibly disappointed with what I saw. And now looking at it, like, that going back was a good decision. Like, he I don't even know if he's top 10 for wide receivers in this class. And so, like, yeah, it's disappointing to see him go back, but also I don't think it hurts this class very much, and it may be good for him. Maybe he has another year of development. Maybe next year's class isn't quite as top heavy in wide receiver, and he can have better draft capital. So, I mean, yes, Frank, it does suck, but it also, like, I get it with Egbuka.
From my perspective, he's fictional until next year now. So. And what's a play if you own Kyron this offseason? Yeah, it's a difficult one. I would love to rank Kyron top 12 because I love that kind of player. Lower drafted, later breakout running back, cool. I have him currently outside the top 12, which puts me at below average for ADP, I think, but above average for ranks, which I think tells you what most of your league mates are going to think. I think you're probably holding Kyron, the Kyron bag, and hoping he stays healthy, keeps that job through this draft. There's not a hell of a lot of competition in this year's draft, but there's some. And it's the Rams and running back. There's always another running back, so there's risk there. If you could package Kyron to get into the top 5 picks this year, love it, especially in a super flex. That's kind of where my mind goes. If not, you just hope he did what he did this year, next year, and then you've got that solid value or the points or tradability, either way. Outside of that, that's the level of value I'd want to trade him at. I'm okay to package to get up into the 105 or plus range or a player of that value. But outside of that, I'm probably holding Kyron because there's very few running backs with that in the range of outcomes that we know of right now. So why not?
Yeah, and I agree with you. And the cool thing about Kyron Williams is you're already playing with house money because you didn't spend a high pick to go get him unless you drafted before the combine.
That's the other thing I was trying to talk about in my podcast. Like the reason I started to fade, focusing later round gems and under the radar sleepers is when you get them, they don't win you the league, although they do provide house money to win,
Right.
but you can't hit on them consistently. So if that's the only place you're focusing, you're spending value to get them on your roster instead of trying to tear up your team. And so that's what you have. And then you go into the off season and there are these dubious trade tips you can't always cash out on. And so I find them in a dynasty perspective, like their value's a little, it's all points. And so it's great when you've got it. But they're all points per game propositions when they're under the radar plays like this.
Yeah. And that's one where like it probably makes sense to hold Kyron Williams. And then if your team is not doing well next year and he's scoring points, then you have a window to trade. If your team is doing well and he is scoring points, then you're getting the point. So the value for Kyron is more in season. And that happens a lot with players that the community doesn't like, where if they're good, we sit there and hold on. We have that anchoring bias and we hold on to that evaluation of, no, he was slow on a day in Indianapolis in April, and so he can't possibly be good. And we hold on to that. And the same thing with players that the community thinks are good. It's the Trevor Lawrence thing. Like we're holding on to that evaluation of Trevor Lawrence, even though we saw him be terrible last year, and we haven't seen him be great yet. We've seen him be good, but we're still holding on to that, like the Travis May evaluation that he is the best quarterback that he's seen come out of college as far as a profile.
And one thing I would say is, again, those would be the two directions I'd try to go with. I'm either holding them and we're going to play this out, or I'm trying to tear into the top 5 player value or literally a top 5 pick. You can cash out because you've got some house money, and you can use some of your team situation to gauge that, which is you go the other direction. You're just trying for a first-round pick and a plus off someone who might be more interested in Kyron, so more of a I need his points next season kind of a builder. Or he's just a young running back with some points potential if you're playing with a Scott, which also has value. There's a way of valuing Kyron Williams to go out and get running backs this offseason. So you might find someone or have someone like that in your league. I'm not trying to cash out. That's the difficulty with getting a house money player. But, I mean, it's possible. You can try for a 25 pick and a plus, maybe. Exchanging party hat, guys. I like it. Okay, we're done with the baseball. I'm done reading it, to be fair. I will happily sit here and hear Zach talk about it more if he's got more. He said this, so whatever that means. 93 Jays Tigers was fun. Or Danny, I've really got to learn how to say names properly. Declare he could be Johnny Wilson, switch to tight end Brian Nesbitt too. I've got him currently listed as a 24 prospect, which means it's up to date with the DLF Devy age table, and they're usually pretty good at that. But are we done with the Declare season?
Yes, as of the 15th, so the day before yesterday.
Gaston.
Let me. I can look at that and see if he declared. I think
I'm trying.
I don't have him on this list.
He's returned to the orange for the 24 season, according to Google.
So he's not coming out.
Apparently, yeah. Jamie. Esteem. Very normal name. I can't say it properly. It's just a power back. No elusiveness. Speed. He'll be an AJ Dillon type. That's what I'm telling you about this year's class, though, Jamie. Again, having not gone into it in depth, I think you're going to look for players with a distinctly solid skill set, not an all-round player with great skills as a 3-down back necessarily. And you're going to look for a great receiver with the size to be a valuable weapon for an offense that can utilize that skill set. You're going to look for, frankly, a Gus the Bus that lands in the right spot, or a Tank Bigsby. We thought we had some of everything, but not great at anything, and was kind of the profile. Roshan Johnson was a mystery, but he looked like he could be an extremely good rusher with some level of target share. That was the most 3-down backy based on a single year profile behind an elite prospect. So it's always difficult to judge. And that's where this class starts. There's lots of skills, lots of talents, lots of players that show distinct ability, in this case, apparently as a power back. So you're going to hope he lands somewhere they run a power scheme and there's opportunity on the depth chart and he gets decent enough draft capital, he work his way into that role. And suddenly you're getting a player in a great role with his skill set, and he's going to pound volume and score you points. We're not looking for Najee Harris. We're not looking for, I don't think this class starts at Najee Harris or JT or like it starts at Swift. Swift, I haven't found a Swift profile in this, but Swift, despite having something of a 3-down skill set, he's also much more of a receiver, I thought, personally, than a rusher in college, but he was an incredibly good receiver and a pretty solid runner, and that was exciting. Like, that would be a great profile in this year's class if there is one. Now, as a power back, he's the opposite, but that's still interesting, the right landing spot, good draft capital. Suddenly you've got yourself a Gus the Bus, but young and exciting, And I think that's where this class's running backs live. And there isn't this guy, I wonder what team's going to get this great player. It's which player is going to find a good team almost at running back. Well, that's probably the wrong way to say it, but you get what I'm putting down, right? Zach, am I close? I don't know at this point.
Yeah, so I've got a list of the top 20 running backs that I've given film grades to, and none of them are from this class. That doesn't mean that there won't be good players in this class, because I like Blake Corum. I like there are a couple of running backs that I think are interesting. I think Trey Benson is interesting. Braylon Allen may end up being the best of them. He's 6'2", 238, can catch the ball a little bit. You're not gonna line him up out wide, but he can make the plays that he should make. He's got great patience, and he's a big physical runner inside, and again, not looking for contact, but he will bury you if you happen to come after him. And even I just watched Bucky Irving, who doesn't grade out quite as highly as those players, because I don't think he's going to be a primary ball carrier, but he's one of those guys that I would call a pass catcher plus. He is exceptional in the receiving game. You can line him up out wide. You can run him on wheel routes. You can have him be in the flat, and he can take off. And he's just like absolute lightning. Like, he catches the ball, and it could be a 40-yard play on a ball that the quarterback threw 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's really good off tackle. So there are guys that have specific traits, but there's not, you're not looking at a Saquon. You're not looking at Bijan. You're not looking at McCaffrey. You're not looking at Dalvin Cook. And even for me, you mentioned you didn't care for DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift was in my top 10 players that I'd graded.
I was saying I like DeAndre Swift.
Oh, okay. But the community was so much higher on Swift as a runner. That's not what he is. It's the same as Gibbs.
I thought it was exceptional as what he was, but yeah. He wasn't. Again, I thought Najee Harris was a better all-around profile. Ezekiel Elliott, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Dalvin Cook. These are the guys. I was just looking where does the top ranking 24 running back come out in my model, and I think being some that I could easily discount because of small sample sizes. It comes in around 22nd since 2015. Like that's the number one running back in this class, 22nd ish. It isn't bad. It's not.
And it's probably a little lower
moving
than that for me, but not a lot lower.
Yeah.
I only have the top 20. I don't have a whole database. I just have like my running tally of players for Peter that make the top 20.
Yeah, Swift is someone I had to go looking for on kind of my pre-draft model because again, he didn't look like Bijan Robinson or Ezekiel Elliott. He looked like this pretty decent runner with an exceptional receiving skill set. And I was like, but with fantasy, you don't understand model. That's a different kind of running back, and you that's awesome. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, lost you. Isn't there a distinct tier break 1.6, 1.7? I think there is at least one tier break above that, to be honest with you, this year. And by default, Anthony, I think Superflex, but I think the top 3-4 picks, it's very different prospects to everyone else. Top 3.
I mean, maybe even
that's probably another one.
Maybe even the top 2. Like it may be like Caleb Williams, and I haven't watched the quarterback, so I can't say this for sure. But it may be that Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. are a top. Like for me, Harrison Jr. is a clear and away tier by himself in the wide receivers.
Same.
I think there is a pretty good group of the 2 quarterbacks, Harrison Jr., Neighbors, and Bowers, as a top like group, even though there may be like mini tiers in between those. So I think there's a pretty substantial drop off there. But then again, I think that there are a few wide receivers that I'm interested in after Malik Neighbors. So I think that it's that Worthy, Thomas Jr. and Odunze. So now you're at 6, 7, 8. I think the real drop off is after the 108. You might be able to throw in another quarterback, like Jaden Daniels may be in there, so maybe it's the 109. But like after that, it gets to be like, I like Tez Walker, I like Troy Franklin, Lad McConkey's fine, Xavier Leggett has like this weird untapped upside, but it was all 1 year, and so like you never saw progression. You just all of a sudden saw Xavier Leggett have 1,500 yards receiving and just truck stick people. And then you get some running backs, but like to me, it's really like the 108, 109 is you're coming down the beach, and then all of a sudden you hit that trench. That's probably 108, 109 in this class.
Yeah, Caleb Williams comes in around 8th since 2015 for me, just as a pre-draft score, and I don't particularly trust my models as a ranking agent. And I certainly don't trust my quarterback model, but I mean, it's pretty good. Apart from having Mayfield and Mariota in that top 8, everyone else
Mayfield's
is
back. Mayfield's back.
It's Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Justin Fields, actually, and then Caleb Williams, followed by Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. It's a pretty solid model. But yeah, and Mayfield apparently is also good now, apparently. So yeah, good enough. Talk to me about A.D. Mitchell. I don't know why, but I just like the player. Gonna have to give me a position there.
Wide receiver. He's the wide receiver that you were talking about that was at Texas. That kind of, he and Worthy split a little bit of the work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Short for Adonis, I'm sure. Let's see. All right. So he's coming in around about where Odunze, Xavier Worthy, and he comes right next. Mitchell comes next. But again, I think those two look a little underranked. And some of the ones above him are probably small sample, lower conference anti-signal I haven't looked at. His best season in receiving yards per team pass attempt was apparently 1.8, which is subpar for a best season. His career average is 1.1 1.0 for receiving yards per team pass attempt. Looks bad. If I were to say it in a word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the lowest.
bad.
He's the lowest of the whatever 12 or 13 wide receivers that I've graded so far. Again, very good. Like he quick hip sync, transition on hitch and comeback routes, plays with good pace in route. He transitions very quickly from a catch to a ball carrier. Does a good job hands catching, catching the ball out away from your body, so the ball doesn't travel in. It's harder to catch if it's traveling in, and it's also easier to defend because defenders can get a hand in. But although he is a hands catcher, he double catches a lot, so he doesn't catch the ball cleanly. I think he's really Jekyll and Hyde with his effort. So some plays he'll be full out, and then other plays you're like, what is he doing? He doesn't even care to be out there. No, even though he's big body, I think he loses to physicality an awful lot. And so again, those types of wide receivers, I'm going to be so much lower on Adonai Mitchell and Keon Coleman than most of the community. I think Travis May right now with his aggregate mock drafts has Keon Coleman in the first round. Keon Coleman and Adonai Mitchell are down at the very bottom of that group. They're just, I don't want the big body post up.
Oh, these are the athletes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
he's got a low ADOT. Spent most of his time in the out wide, according to PFF snaps.
Yeah.
6.7 ADOT. I can't see a thing off the top to like. He's got a 109. I have to investigate what the hell targeted QB rating is, by the way, because that's the thing that's pulling Worthy down so much. I just found out he's got a 95 QB targeted rating. So when he was targeting, the QB's rating was 95, which is incredibly subpar. But I don't know how much interplay there is with your level of quarterbacking there. Mitchell's was 109, which is still below average, but it's actually it's probably around about average. It's all right. Keon Coleman's QB targeted rating was about the same. I'm just throwing out stats I know people like. Their overall volume sucks. They're not co-opting volume. The ADOTs are a little weird. I'm assuming they're high efficiency players and high efficiency plays because that tends to be what creates these things. They both got ADOTs under 6, yet they spend most of their snaps. They've got nearly triple the stats out wide versus in the slot. Makes sense that you're talking about their height and their weight, and I'm sure they're great athletes. I don't like their profiles off the top.
He kind of
I like Coleman a lot more than Mitchell, but that's not saying much.
And I think, I'm not a big Coleman guy, but Mitchell gives me a little bit like Cedric Tillman vibes from last year. Okay. Good in a straight line, good sinking his hips, good comeback, good curl, that sort of thing, but not doing a whole lot of other things. And I want other things out of my my wide receivers. And to me, and I know I dropped this in the chat today, but Keon Coleman feels like Auden Tate all over again.
All right. And my process is, fairly laissez-faire at this point. I just look along trying to understand the context, see how they were producing, get a sense of who the player was. But my first steps are pretty simple. I look at the receiving yards per team pass attempt, maybe the yards per route run, just to get a sense of who this player was. And then, like I was just doing, combining it with their ADOT and this, where their snaps were to get a sense of what type of role they were playing. So the first things I want to see is their boxes go green and receiving yards per team pass attempt, essentially. In their average or their best or their age adjusted, anywhere. Just show me you're above average in co-opting volume relative to your team. Their box go red. Doesn't mean bad player, but it's not a good look. That's why right off the top I'm saying nah. And then you look across and you see a below average ADOT, a really low ADOT, below 7 for their college career. mediocre QB targeted ratings, mostly playing out wide, and I'm getting, like say again, the sense of great athletes playing high efficiency plays, and that's just not what I seek. Coleman comes in a lot higher because again his drafted rate is just slightly better. Like players get drafted from where is he? Florida a little bit more often than from Texas, apparently. So that's helping him out. But I don't think I like the player's profile right off the top, but I haven't dug into any of them. What would you trade St. Brown for the 107 and a 25 first?
No.
The 107 is too low tier. Again, like above, he's someone that comes in, like we're talking the top tier of value players, and you probably have to add like T. Higgins and above. I need a plus on a top 3 pick to think about trading them away. It's kind of a rough rule. I haven't checked out where T. Higgins is in my ranks yet, but that significant tier of players like Jalen Waddle, CeeDee Lamb, and above that in my rankings or generally in value, they're worth more than a top 3 round pick, even in a super flex, maybe. Caleb Williams makes it slightly complicated. But below that, like, no, you're adding much more than a random first in another season, which might well be the 107 again, or a below average tier pick. Let me see if there's a better way of saying this.
The
value's wrong. He's worth 3 first round picks, not 2. Also, when you know the number of one of them, this is a 107. That is now not just a first round pick. That's not as easy to trade, weirdly, for a building team specifically, as a random pick in the middle of a season, because that could be anywhere. It could be a top tier pick, and so you have a little of that wonder taking out, and everyone trading for it knows they're in this middle tier of player that they're less excited about. Another way of thinking about it is you're trading 25% shots of getting someone who might be as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown over the next 2 years, when you could just have Amon-Ra St. Brown for the next 7. Like that might be the quickest one way of saying why the value is so off. Like 2 shots, 25% each, they don't add to 50%. So a 25% shot twice. For a player who might be something like as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown has been so far. Like, no, just keep Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's really young. What do you want us to do with our Patriots number 3 draft pick, Zach?
I have no idea. I don't even, like, I don't know. I'm still reeling from the succession plan from Belichick to the guy who is Belichick but doesn't want control over the draft. I don't know. It's just to me, I said this last week too, and now they've gone and done exactly the opposite of what I was kind of hoping they would do. But if you're going to go away from Belichick, then you got to completely pivot. And it's nothing against, like, I don't mind the hire, but you already had the best Belichick you could have. Now you're getting Belichick light, and it's just a matter of Kraft wants to have a little more kind of control or not have Belichick with his hand in the cookie jar of the draft, and I don't know. So I don't know. I'm still reeling from that. I haven't even stopped to think. And probably they should take the offensive tackle. It's not sexy, but that's probably what they should do. Or, I mean, I guess maybe you trade up and see if you can get Caleb Williams. But I want to put pieces in front of them before I make a play for that quarterback. So I don't know. It's bad. I don't like it. The Patriots are going to be bad again next year.
I agree. I got a pretty good shot at getting that right. Genji, Jonathan Brooks and Bucky Irving are hammers.
I don't think so, but I think they're both like nice
hammers,
pieces.
maybe.
They're nice pieces. They're not at the top of this class, but they're not. And again, this class is not as good as other classes, and they're not at the top of this class.
Oh. Braylon Allen is horrendous.
Okay. I think he's better than the two guys you just called hammers. So
Cashing nets and cashing checks. When we get to do the second part. Thoughts? Appreciate you, Tyler. Thank you. High Life. Hey, guys. Hey, High Life. What do you call an Ethiopian with a big toe? I don't think I want to know. I don't think I want to know the answer to that, High Life, but thank you. Shimmy, a 1 QB, start 9-12 team. Give Jahan Dotson the 111, the 203, and the 303. Get Diggs and a 25 first. Get Diggs, yes.
Yeah.
I think Diggs, someone asked me another trade question about Diggs, and their follow-up was, is it by Diggs season? And based on that trade and this one, yeah. Anything like a late first-round pick, and the addition of a second and third does nothing to that for me, by the way.
Right, yeah.
To get Diggs would be solid, and you're getting a 25 first back.
Yeah.
So
which
the
probably
25
will be
first might be straight up better than the 111, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So you're getting Diggs for a second.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No. You don't need to get a life.
Don't get a life. Stay here with us. But,
but you have to be patient and let us keep up. Let us catch up, I guess. Or let me catch up. Peter's already got all the data scraped.
I know all the answers there. Who would you rather roster, Rashad Bateman or David Bell? I roster both. That's the way you solve that dilemma. I feel Genji and brother just make the pick. That's fair. I mean, if I'm gonna have that attitude, it's literally in a rookie draft because it could be anything. It's literally a mystery box. Could be a boat. And it's fun. I gotta have fun somewhere. Superflex 12. Have Lamar, A-Rich, and the 101. Do I take Caleb? Yes.
Try to trade.
What you have shouldn't affect who you pick.
Try to trade Richardson and add somebody that you want. Like either try to add the 102 so you can get Marvin Harrison, or try to attack somebody that you think. I mean, like Jamar Chase is going to be. This is going to be like the Jamar Chase buy window. It sounds really weird, but like people have been hurt by Jamar Chase this season, and psychology is such a fun thing where he sucked and Burrow sucked and I didn't win, and he was the dynasty, wide receiver 1, and heck with him. Now it's CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. Maybe we're going to sneak Amon-Ra St. Brown up there. Maybe we're going to put Marvin Harrison up there. And so, like, that's what I would be trying to do is kind of knock around, see what I could get for Richardson. And if I added maybe a little plus to that and take Caleb Williams, but also add to your team, through Richardson, who may he's still nebulous to me, and his value has come up an awful long way.
I was gonna say trade A-Rich. Just 2 trade offers to send out. If you get accepted, great. Probably won't, but why not? Send A-Rich to the 102 owner, try to get the 102. Send A-Rich to the 103 owner, trying to get the 103. And then you can have one of those other guys you like at the top of the draft and Caleb. And I would be perfectly fine with that. But if it's to buy Jamar Chase season, maybe try that first. Or at least at the same time. How much should I be looking to get Josh Allen? Get for Josh Allen a Superflex? I would trade Josh Allen on a building roster, so my main focus is value. So as much as possible, it might be one of those situations you want to tell your whole league you're trading him and say, I'm trading him by this state. Everyone send offers, or someone's going to get him for nothing, kind of a thing. You might not want to try that with a Josh Allen, but I would encourage competition on that trade because it's one of those assets in Dynasty, and especially in the Superflex, and you're trying to build. That's where just to let you know what kind of team we're thinking. As a generic value, almost no one's worth more than 3 first-round picks generically in Dynasty, so that's where you start with that top-tier asset. But now we've got a rookie draft coming. Like we were just saying, as you put numbers to them, they better be high numbers if you want to trade for someone like Josh Allen. So you need a top 3 pick in there and 2 other random firsts, and you're starting. That's a pretty good benchmark. Now, obviously, not everyone's going to trade 31st round picks. That's why it's a high value, and that is a tier of players where you do need something more, even though no one should be worth more than 3 first-round picks. I say repeatedly. Mahomes and Hurts and Allen and Jefferson and Chase, there's no higher tier, but they're in that tier. You know what I mean? It's above the line somehow. And so you're always looking to add that little extra to actually make it worth your while. So you might be looking for, don't trade for rookies, don't trade for unproven young players because you're building, and so you want to avoid risk is the other part of it. So go see what your top 5 quarterbacks might look different than mine, but whoever's in your top 5, just below the Hurts, Mahomes, Allen tier, or try the Mahomes, Allen, Hurts owner, I guess. But try for Lamar Jackson, try for Caleb Williams, try for Kyler Murray, sorry. CJ Stroud owner, and see if you can get a first added to them, because it's Josh Allen, and you should get a first with them, and then you're kind of having your cake and eat it too. You're building while still retaining a top flight quarterback, especially if it's CJ Stroud, the potential's there. Then you actually might get similar hype and trade, and then you can keep moving forward with other trades if you need to. But those would be my first thoughts. Outside of that, I mean, you could try the Chase owner, because maybe there's a window on Chase. You're looking for a window on one of those higher value assets to maybe trade out of Josh Allen into, and then hope to trade them later again because you're building, so you're only thinking of value. But those are some ideas. Like there's no great go do this exact trade for me. It's all about what your league is willing to pay, and the answer might be not enough. And so I'm trying to set the bar pretty close to a high medium for you. Zach, any better ideas? If you're trying to trade Josh Allen, what would your
You want everything. No, like you hit it. You've got to get another one of those quarterbacks in that. I mean, even I think Herbert's probably in that group too. But like one of those quarterbacks that may, and you can get a plus on them for Allen. So like you're not dropping out of contention with your quarterback, but you're also getting a plus. You're getting a first or something like that. Like that, you have to play it that way because Josh Allen right now, to quote Genchi, is a hammer.
And if you're in the 70% of teams, which is neither on either extreme of highly competing, which almost no one is at this point in the year, or highly building, probably keep Josh Allen. That's what I do most of the time. It's only when I get pushed towards that building side I would think about trading an asset. That's why quarterbacks in that tier are so valuable in a super flex, because you're like, if everything goes wrong, I'm just going to cash out of these guys and actually have a pretty solid foundation to start rebuilding my roster in Dynasty. But yeah. I did that. We've talked about this before, but a couple of my teams I thought I was going to be competing this year turned out not to be because the quarterback stunk so bad this year. So I ended up trading my Lamar Jacksons and didn't trade any Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen's, but I traded a few Lamar Jacksons and someone else as well in that tier. Might have been a Dak in there somewhere, to kind of start building the rosters with. Kyler Murray, him one. Yeah. T. Higgins. Yeah, I think he's going to be one of those values. Pittman's almost interesting. Don't tell Zach, because we've got an ongoing thing with that. Carl Strickland. 12 teams to flex, half-point PPR for tight ends. 1 point PPR for tight ends. A half point for everyone else. Gotcha. Made 2 moves following winning the championship. Congrats, Carl. That netted out to Travis Kelce and my 25 first and fourth to get Bijan Robinson. Algier, the 304, the 308. I thought it got pretty good at Bijan Robinson, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think that's a solid move for a team that literally just won. I mean, it sucks to lose Kelce, but it's kind of trying to do both. Again, you're balancing your points per game and your value. Bijan's younger. He's at a position that's almost as rare as a Travis Kelce, not quite, like a top 3 running back outside of CMC is nowhere near Kelsey. But it's as close as you can get for rarity. You've got age there, and I think you've got the points per game advantage back, but at a different position. So I think you've balanced your value and you've balanced your points per game pretty well there. I like that kind of trade idea.
Yeah, Carl,
I really like Kelsey.
I really like this trade because I think you're at a point now where Kelsey is all points and no value.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And getting out of Kelsey and getting value and potentially points back. Like people are going to realize, and you did this following winning the championship, and so maybe it wasn't before Art Smith was done, but like this is beautiful. Yeah, what a perfect trade.
Seriously. W, Carl. Genji, I tried to get the 102 for Richardson, but it seems like the guy holding the pick is backing out, so now I'm scrambling to find moves to get off Richardson, considering I have Kyler on the 101. I mean, you don't have to get out of Richardson, to be fair, but yeah, and try the 103 owner. For example, yeah. Or like we just mentioned, Herbert and even Burrow. Lamar Jackson, there's almost always a Lamar Jackson hater, and he might be the guy rostering in a league. You try for that elite tier of quarterback if all else fails, and like a 25 first. I get that you want a high pick in this year's draft class, because who doesn't? But your focus here is maintaining your quarterback position and moving your value forward. Since you guys think so? Really, I must be higher on Pickens than the 201. Could be a first-round wide receiver, and there's only the 201 will not be a first-round wide receiver, dude, unless it's like a Henry Ruggs. No. And it's only a 10-team league. The 10-team league did make me pause for a second. But no, like Lawrence, I get that what Zach just said. I'm holding on to an old evaluation, but like he's still a top 12 quarterback for me in points expectation, and he's young. I mean, it was a down year. I don't entirely adjust what I think of the players. One bad year, but then again, I wasn't watching, so maybe he had no skills on the field.
It was ugly, but to me, I think it was basically a push, and you're getting a quarterback and a super flex. Like I don't think the value is too far off between what was it, Pickens and might have been a 25 first. I can't remember. But like to me, that value was basically a wash. Yeah. So
Jazz Fresh, just hit my lunch break. Hi, hey, Jazz Fresh. I didn't know you're a nighttime worker. I appreciate you. I enjoy working nights too. Don't do it no more. But yeah, and thanks for wasting such precious time wasted on our ugly mugs. I appreciate that. Seriously, so many better things to watch with your 30 minutes. Really appreciate it. Hollywood Titan, what up, fellas? Not much. Let's see. Not the temperature around here. Jeez, it was so cold this morning. Rome or Bowers in a 1 QB? I don't know that kind of thing right now. I'm going to lean position at this point, and so tight end is probably more tempting in this year's draft class than like pretty interesting wide receiver. But as a mid to late first round pick, I'd probably take the tight end. But Zach hates first round rookie tight end. So.
Yeah, but this is a different kettle
of
fish. Like no, like this is a Bowers as a first round rookie tight end, whether you think first round rookie tight ends make sense or not, because by the time we get to rookie drafts, Bowers is going to be the Kyle Pitts crescendo, except, and this is the big difference, I think Bowers actually gets it done at the next level. Like comes in and does Bowers things. Like I have not watched him yet. I watched 12 games, 13 games of Ladd McConkey. And every game I'm watching Ladd McConkey, I'm actually watching Brock Bowers because he's doing things that no human being should be able to do, and he's doing it from the tight end position. Like he'll have like 3 plays in a row where he sets the edge and absolutely plants a defensive end. And then the 4th play, he'll run like a little crossing route and he'll absolutely abuse a linebacker and then catch the ball in traffic in like 3 people, shake 2 of them off and gain an extra 3 yards. And you're just like, wait. I'm supposed to be watching Lad McConkey. Like, I'm sorry. I gotta go rewind. And like Bowers is that dude. And he is, to me, again, Odunze is not in the top tier of receivers in this class for me. Bowers is the top tier of tight end.
8.5 yards after catch per reception. That is. And
Peter,
he's sandwiched right now in my rookie model between Mark Andrews and George Kittle.
Yeah.
That's probably pretty good.
Yeah, it's dumb watching him. Like, J Mike asked me where he falls in my tight end rankings, and I was like, I would have to go back and look because I don't have the tight end rankings offhand. But I'm going to go back to see him at the top of them because I think he probably will end up close to there. So I was big on Andrews too. So, but
some noob. Who are some proven young players that are undervalued in Dynasty Echo Chamber that we should target trade in the late first? Again, like I think Higgins could get in that conversation. I think Pickens. That's why I was mentioning those 2 names because I think they could fall into that conversation as rookie hype grows and the season fades. Single players for those late round draft picks. Again, I'd rather package those late round draft picks to get like a Higgins and Pickens and Higgins and Pittman for a late round draft pick plus. Pretty confident still going after those guys.
Devonta Smith
Diggs is apparently falling below that valuation, so maybe try and get a plus with Diggs. He's falling into the early second conversations. So a late round first for Diggs or any of the old vets that end up there, and Adams or Hill's not going to fall that far, surely.
Devonta Smith continues to be and he'll probably be higher because he just like even in that ugly loss, like he just absolutely lit up the Bucks for whatever it was, 160 yards or something stupid like that. But like,
see, that's a name that makes me think I should say like players that I think are far exceed that value because Smith should far exceed that value for me. So like just in case, Jordan Addison, Deebo Samuel, quite happily trade a later first for Deebo Samuel, Puka or Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably pushing it here. Let's not pretend people are that silly, but I'm just looking at my top values, so those names came up. Cooper Kupp, definitely for a late first.
Yeah, but he's not a young.
And those are just the wide receivers. I think some of the running backs might be more interesting this year, but it's always difficult to suggest trading for a running back. But maybe Saquon Barkley could possibly fall into that range. Maybe not. But Deebo Samuel definitely could and shouldn't. So.
We're getting a lot better, though, as a community at identifying the players that should be ranked higher and moving them up. So it's like you mentioned Addison. It's to me, it's Devonta Smith, it's Addison. I'm still a JSN guy. I think he did enough at the end of the season for me to be excited about him. And he did it in the way that I kind of expected it to happen. And so like those are the types of guys that I'm targeting. And Genji, no, Jordan Addison is not a shiny Jahan Dotson. Oh,
Jesus. He comes up with the worst comments.
Oh.
Yeah, if you could get Addison in that range, dang, that's way too low for Addison.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just saying that name just to be safe. But I would mostly think who's got a little less shine on the rose, like a Deebo Samuel right now, like a Stephon Diggs, who I've seen several trades for where that they would jump at the chance to get that late first for their Diggs. Yeah, I would jump at the chance to get Diggs.
Higgins. Yeah.
Higgins, Pittman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm fine packaging something with that pick for all those players outside of maybe Adams. He's getting, he's more points per position at this point.
Yeah.
Geji, I'm trying to have my soul. Such as. Thanks again for some of your precious time and mind share. It's your time, man. We're happy to be here while you share it. But let's face it, you guys are the ones who choose to spend your time with us. Me and Zach would be talking about this stupid shit either way. I appreciate it. Pardon me. Jazz Fresh, throw out that profile. Jordan Love is here to stay. He's exceeded my expectations. Had him a top 12 year one and top 8 year 2. Okay. Love top 6 year 1. I'm still taking the under on that one, but I'm rooting for you,
he finished as the quarterback 5. Like he did, but
yep.
I like it.
So John loves it. Evening, everybody. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Taylor says 10 teams start 2 QB. Start 11 PPR. Would you trade London?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know
if you're going to give us the easy out. Yeah. Pete, get his name right. I'm not gonna for a little while. Give me some.
I like Adonis better. Do Adonis. That was better.
Adonis is better. Adonis Mitchell. Like, he's got to appreciate that a little bit. Any Malik Washington fans?
I haven't got that far, Jazz.
I'm nowhere near that. So basically, Pete, for example, we shouldn't ding a Brian Thomas Jr. for doing next to nothing year 1 and 2. Yeah, I don't think that's the way to do it either. Like, just because a player doesn't show out early doesn't mean they're not going to be good. You got to take into account the context. They could have been injured. They could have been on a depth chart where they simply just couldn't work their way onto the field. That's more true of running backs, but it's happened for wide receivers when. Who was AJ Brown playing with? It was like DK Metcalf or someone else, and one was injured, then the other one was injured, and there's context to some of those stories that just bears knowing. Or you could play for Ohio that 1 year Michael Thomas played, and they were like, "Nah, we just don't. We don't like using a good receiver on this team anymore."
That's one of my favorite profiles. That like I still have the sheet of me charting Michael Thomas. And it's just like separation on slant, separation on slant, separation on slant. And the notes are like, nobody can cover this guy.
Nice. No. I think honestly, that's why you can't just rank by a number or quote a single stat. And that's why this player is good, even though we do that kind of too long didn't read a take. I really think you just have to take into account a whole player's season. I do think most good players have. There are things that the majority of good players have in common that we should lose to highlight certain players. Again, co-opting volumes, certain age-adjusted, especially receiving yards per team pass attempt, or even yards per route run if you just have to insist on using the magic number, which isn't a magic number and is a little worse than the other one I mentioned, but still, it's good enough. It's close enough to it. And then take into account the development and exactly that you don't have to be the greatest thing first year. Some get better later, but why did they? Like, were they developing certain route trees? And that's where he literally didn't know what to do on the field the first year, or he developed his slant rate, or the conversation about DK Metcalf was interesting. I think you're a little lower than Jake, but you explained why. Like, he does this thing a lot and he does that well, but that's one trick. And I don't know how that converts to the NFL to provide context to his numbers. Yeah.
Well, and also like Metcalf was a fun one for me too, because like, yes, he was a 9-route guy and he could go like, he was just like, all right, I can beat you because I'm faster than you and bigger than you. I'm just going to go fast and straight. But he also developed moves to get himself off press. So like when he first started, he would just run into the corner and the corner could get hands on him within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, negate that speed, and then he was in trouble. By the time he was a junior, he had like 4 distinct moves off press coverage. So like to see the progression, like I like that sort of thing. I think that's great.
And that helps provide real good context for why this number is different than that number.
Yeah.
And that helps too. But there are a few things like you've got to keep in mind. Like I think good players get targets or good players get volume. That's the golden rule.
Right.
But in college, especially in the NFL, I can be a little bit more ruthless. These are grown adults being thrown in a highly stressful situation, and there can be later breakouts. Don't get me wrong. Even the most talented players sometimes take a little second, even at wide receiver. But that my baseline is that assumption, and because it works more consistently than anything else I know. But in college, you've got like an 18-year-old going to play with 23-year-olds who have been on the team for 3, sometimes 4 years in that weight room with professional trainers. Now, college, I know high school is getting more and more sophisticated, and coming from some high schools, you might have had a similar environment, but nothing like college training with actual coaches and rigorous systems and just a better weight room and more of an inclination that this could be your life, and so you're maybe more motivated. You've got a lot going on in there. So to walk onto the field at age 18 and be the dominant player is incredibly impressive, more so than in the NFL, because I am expecting you to do something what Puka Nacua and JSN did towards the end of the year and Jordan Addison did. That's the expectation. Not every game from day one, but by the end of the season, you should see it because that's why you're there. But in college, you could start out at age 18 with 23-year-old vets who are literally more just physically dominating on you, dominant from you. And you might have the talent and not being physically undominant yourself, but also the team's got a senior difference in that these players know the routes and they know the calls, and there's a lot to learn about a college system, I imagine, that's different than a high school system. Also, you're becoming a borderline adult for the first time in your life, away from home probably for the first time, often coming from you've got a lot thrown at players. And just because it's highly impressive to do it in year one doesn't mean that the great players won't all do it in year one, that they couldn't actually, with all that going on, find a situation where actually it takes them a little while to do it. And that's perfectly fair. In fact, there are many examples of this. You've also got something like the Calvin Ridley rule, whereas he's got older numbers because he didn't play till he was like 29 years old in college, because something about his high school and when he could actually go to a college football team, it put him a year behind. And so his numbers all look older because his year one literally starts 2 years after everyone else in terms of age. So just those two that basic rule, and then being aware that everything going on in the 18-year-old's life when they go to the college for the first time, it's more than understandable. By Jerry Rice wouldn't have stood out in that year, and it would be perfectly understandable at a college high school, or this college high school with this college team, and so on and so forth. And then, is that doing nothing year 1 and 2 real? Did they only play 1 or 2 games? And it's probably a senior difference, or injury, or learning that college system, or trying to acclimatize to that more independent lifestyle. It could be a lot of things going on in a kid's life at that age. That's why I think the idea of high school statistics is just freaking wild. Like, you've got literal children. One, there's a privacy issue there that I don't think anyone's really considered in fantasy football yet. Like, you should know about my kid, like that's literally my kid's age. Like, no, you shouldn't know that much about my child randomly on the internet. But also, like, they're literal kids. I don't think tracking the statistics is going to offer near as much insight as anyone thinks. But what do I know? So yeah. That 3-tier system at least can easily excuse a bad year 1 and 2. Yeah. Went on that one too long too. Josh, I'm interested in trading away Laporta to get back into the 24 first round after I traded the 112 and 212 for Olave. That's a really good trade for Olave, by the way. Trade for Olave with your late first, apparently. And what's the highest reasonable draft pick I should try to ask for? The 101. Maybe the 103. I would not. I'm not interested in a trade for a draft pick any lower than that for Sam Laporta. No.
I wouldn't take anything lower than 105.
You take the 105 straight up for Laporta. Okay. Well, you know more about this class than me. That might be just a confidence, a little bit more confidence in what you would find there. That's fine.
I may, like you said, I may not, but I would not take anything lower than that. Like the I'd have to kind of see. But again, I think Laporta is fantastic.
He's no Brock Bowers.
And I had him, and I had him as my one in the class last year. Like I was very open about that. Like we had this conversation.
Very strong on that. Yeah.
And I'm still there. Like some people have him as the tight end one, like full stop at this point.
In Dynasty, I think he is.
Yeah. So like, and again, and tight end premium. Maybe I wouldn't even trade him. I don't know. I don't think you need to get back into this class necessarily. But you better be getting a high pick if you're getting rid of the board.
I would go a different way. If you want to get back into this class, support us straight into this class. It's almost too jarring. You're trading an elite asset, this really rare position to have an elite asset. So you've got all that
a young
working for and against you, and a young one in Dynasty. So backtrack it. You might cascade trade it. Check out what the Mark Andrews owner is doing, what the George Kittle owner is doing, and what their roster looks like, what picks they have. And try to work that way. Instead, get into the 105, 106 and think about Brock Bowers by looking for wide receivers who might be a reasonable trade for Sam Laporta and the 105, 106. You might have to go about it a slightly different way. Getting straight up for a draft pick, like for me, like your Malee mates might differ, but they might balk at the price. And it will be reasonable, but I don't think it should go below it just for that reason. It's just a really rare thing to have. Genji's a little lower than this, as usual.
Yeah.
Nolan, howdy. Don't usually catch you all live, but I like your show. I appreciate that, Nolan. Thanks very much. Happy to have you here. Is there a case for taking Marvin Harrison Jr.? Yes, the 101 Superflex. Yeah, I think my basic case would be it's a rookie draft. It's your team. You should have fun. And he's easily that level of prospect. Yeah. So, the question to ask, though, as we say about rookie drafts all the time, is which player you're most confident is going to put up the more points and increase in value soonest? Like, that's the only question. It's not wide receiver of a quarterback, although that bleeds into the answer to that question a lot of times. But for you, which players are most likely to do the most to increase the value the soonest or the earliest, whichever is grammatically correct. And that's the player you take. That's it. And you can get that wrong and then investigate why you got it wrong, try and do better next time. That's part of, trying to be better at Dynasty. But that's the only question. If you're that set and Marvin Harrison is that guy in this year's class, then that's the guy you take. That's fine. And I think that's more than justifiable. Like Zach keeps talking about his ranks. I don't have a historical ranking necessarily, but I'm trying to keep up with my model a little bit because it's such an effective way of communicating these things. But he's easily got a top 5 scorer in my pre-draft model since 2015. Like that was straight away. Like, oh, okay. There's like 3 prospects with near his score. One of them's Justin Jefferson, one of them's CeeDee Lamb, one of them. It's like, oh, okay. We're talking about that guy. And there's a clear separation between him and Neighbors, who comes in second. It's like a 4-point difference, which is huge when you're talking about Neighbors' score being already 4 points above average. And Harrison's over that. And so there's a clear percentile differentiation here. But again, some of the answers we've had to these other questions is you don't just have to consider that. Like, you could try and trade back, especially if you're trading back to a 1 or 2 who needs a Caleb Williams, and there are other options. But my answer would be right now, from the little I know about the class, just using basic Dynasty strategy and ideas, is you should take Caleb Williams. If you ask me, if you made me make your draft pick, I'd take Caleb Williams. But if you took Marvin Harrison Jr., I would support it fully and not be surprised in the least when it pays off. And so you should have full confidence in doing that if that's the guy that you want. And that's how strongly you feel about it. It's a long answer, But that's apparently my style tonight, at least. Yeah. Zach, would you ever?
I would have to see how the draft shakes out, and I also have to watch Caleb Williams.
That?
But I mean, last year I advocated for taking Bijan Robinson at 101. So like, there's definitely a way that a case to be made for Harrison. I don't know if I'll
I
make
think I
it.
was with you on that as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Like I could see that. Like he's just a different thing. And also, like Stroud was 3 in that class, so you were taking him over Young or Richardson, which worked out. Caleb Williams, in perspective, he's sandwiched between Fields and Deshaun Watson. It's a pretty good score, but it's a mite below the Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kyler Murray, who have a slight edge in terms of percentile. If I were to calculate the percentile of this model, I think that's about fair. He's an incredibly strong prospect. He's above Lawrence, for example.
Yeah.
And Burrow. Yeah. Genji, Pete, Zach, don't sleep on Jaden Daniels. He'll probably go top 3 capital. Capital's only so important in that it's incredible.
Well, and especially with quarterbacks, too. I mean, you're just kind of hoping you go in the top 10, 15, whatever. Right. But yeah, like he's good. Like he'll be the second or third quarterback off the board, without question. I think. But Genji's next comment is Lamar Jackson-esque upside. I'm not quite sure. Like, yes, he is a running quarterback. He is
86% rushing.
Yeah, like he's really good. He had, I think, like 1,300 yards rushing this past year. I'd have to look that up.
31.6% rushing attempts.
I don't know what that means, Peter.
30% of the rushing attempts, but yeah, no.
1,100 yards. So he had 1,100 yards rushing. Like he is a mobile quarterback. He is more accurate than a lot of the mobile quarterbacks we've seen come out lately. I do think he is a little bit slight, and holy cow, he needs to learn how to slide because he puts himself in some really bad positions. One of the things we talk about with running quarterbacks is they actually can see and kind of control the way they get hit. I'm not sure that Jaden Daniels does. Like he'll run into these bone crushing hits and so yes, he's good. Yes, again, he'll probably be top 3 fantasy wise, depending on where he lands. We're going to feel good about it because he's got rushing, floor, ceiling. Like that'll be nice.
Passing looks solid-ish.
Oh
so
yeah,
that's good. Yeah, 75% accuracy, career total. His pressure to sack ratio is a little high, which is worrying. His QB rating is low, but his accuracy and completion percentage are within norms.
Solid. Yeah, he's good. Like he's good. But I think putting him in the Lamar Jackson tier is a little bit like I'm not willing to do. Yeah. Lamar Jackson was almost 30 pounds heavier, was a much better runner, and even though he wasn't as accurate a passer, he also only spent 3 years in college, where Jaden Daniels has been in 5 and progressed as a passer every year. But you saw Lamar Jackson progress as a passer in college. By the time he was a junior, you saw him going through progressions and reading zone coverage and that sort of thing. So, like, again, Jaden Daniels good. Like, I'm not trying to debate that. I think when you start throwing out Lamar Jackson as a comp, there aren't very many Lamar Jacksons. Like, one.
The rushing style seems to stick out because that's really important when you think about injuries. It's not rushing is more dangerous, but the way you rush can be. As for the passing profiles, I can see similarities.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is a more accurate passer than Lamar Jackson was coming out.
75 versus 68, so technically correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And their QB rating is similar. QB rating rates in passing touchdowns, though, and I'm always a little suspicious because the rushing quarterbacks tend to be lower on that because they're rushing for a lot of the touchdowns instead of passing for them, so they don't get the same QB. I think that weighs in. They both come in below 100 in the QB rating career total. But again, there's some similarities to the passing game, which is a plus mark for Jaden Daniels. And what I'm speaking to here is that Zach's concern of the rushing star might be the most relevant there, or more relevant. And yeah, just feel like I'd want at least a 106 something. Yeah, Jaden Daniels is going to be nice. I haven't even looked at him. This is the first time I've really scanned across him. Lance Williber. Nice. I have the 105 in 2 leagues, both 1 QB leagues. Teardrop there after Marvin, Nabers, Bowers, Rome. I think Rome isn't in that tier even. Yeah, it's a little tighter than that in a 1 QB.
Yeah, but to me, he's saying, who do you have after that at the 105? And it's probably it's Worthy or Brian Thomas.
Yeah, it's a player that I can't speak with confidence on. Like outside of Marvin, Neighbors looks pretty solid, and the quarterbacks, at least the top 2, like I really don't have a good sense of how I'd rank them. I know I like Worthy a lot, so I agree with that. But they're not in that tier yet. The draft could change that drastically, but
yep.
Who are selling the 108 for in Superflex if looking for production next year? Same list as we just listed off. Most of the vets, Diggs especially, based on the trades I've been hearing about. I would investigate Diggs pretty heavily. Cooper Kupp. Mike Evans? Yeah, he's got to be getting in that conversation, doesn't he? He's probably past that conversation.
I would say I think you probably can get Mike Evans for less than the 108. I mean, maybe not because he had another good year,
But to be clear, don't limit yourself to the old guys that's not even that late a pick, the 108. Investigate Jordan Addison first. Second year is a huge year for players. And he's going to put up numbers next year. He's going to be a points player, and he's young, and he's good. And he had a great rookie season. Like, if you can get into, you don't have to just go for a points player just because you want production next year. And if Debo's a good name for that conversation, but it's almost slightly different valuation. But Jordan Addison, like that's where I would start off. See if you can get a Jordan Addison, one of these sophomores that we love or you love, that did really well in their rookie season. There's no reason you couldn't start there with a Tank Dell, a little lower, obviously, but a Jordan Addison first for me. Or a Puka. Puka's value is a little uncertain right now, depending on the league. Love him or hate him, and the Dynasty ADP valuation is kind of bouncing around, but the ultimate valuation comes from your league, Nolan. So what does a guy who has Puka in your league feel his value is? What would you have to add? Would you have to add something to what you should to get Puka? Or JSN. That's a great name that Zach just fell out. If you want to throw out just a touch more risk, not because we didn't see it, because it wasn't all there for the whole season like the players we just mentioned, but only under those guys. I think that'd be a great straight-up trade for a team that needs production next year, because JSN has to put up numbers next year or his value for, so he's more a points per game bet, but he's also young and we actually think still really good. So that could pay off for you. But the default answer is you're going to have an easier time trading for, in most cases, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, and I think those would be really solid trades across the board.
Yeah, I'm still angling for Devontae Smith, Olave, like that.
Smith's a great one. Pittman, Higgins, we mentioned, might fall
and even like you might be able to get a plus on top of somebody like Trey McBride, but I think he's worked himself into that top 4 or 5 tight end conversation.
Completely fair. If you want to switch positions, there I always go immediately to wide receiver, but there's no reason you have to do that for sure. Yeah. What's up with Xavier Leggett? Does it matter that he's like 28? I mean, yes and no. Age adjusted. What position are we talking here?
He's a wide receiver, South Carolina.
All right.
he did nothing for his first 3 years, and then last year he was just a world beater.
I kind of hate that
For
because teams
4
also.
years.
I do think teams are like aware players are aging out. Like let's give him a little senior deference. Yeah, he's not scoring well. Xavier Leggett, 7.1, 5 points below mediocre. Yeah, he's a late year breakout. Yeah, my numbers aren't gonna like him at all. You're gonna have to go tape for that kind of stuff.
I mean, like he does some really interesting things, but like it's a little raw. You're going to hear Genji. You're going to hear people comp him to Debo Samuel. Like that will be a thing. He doesn't run a slant like Debo Samuel did. Like Debo Samuel, when I watched him, I was like, the only other players that I've seen run slants as well as Debo have been obviously Michael Thomas, Cooper Kupp, and Devontae Adams. And like beyond that, it was Debo. So you're going to hear people like comp Leggett to him. He also was a quarterback in high school. So yeah, so like not to like give him an out, but transitioning from a quarterback to a wide receiver in college is it's tricky-ish.
I've got okay. His last year was good enough. He was at 3 receiving yards per team pass attempt. At age 22, it's actually an age-adjusted positive. It's 1.6 over the average. The average for that age, for that conference, is like 1.4. But at 22, you're looking at a really small sample size, which is where it gets a little sketchy. But, I mean, it was good enough. It was a really solid year. But one solid year at the age of 22. Sorry. He's going to be 23 this year. Yeah. It doesn't move mountains, but he's an interesting later round dart throw, perhaps, if he finds some landing spot in the NFL that's interesting. Yeah. No. Only ask for Jonathan Brooks and Bucky Irving get second round draft capital.
Good luck.
That's a dream. I like fourth round draft capital. It's good enough for Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Tyson. I hold Pitt 3-7. Nice. And a 10-team super flex. Oh, a great pick. Start 2 tight end leagues. Even better. The 101 owner wants to trade back to 3 for Bowers. I was going to take Bowers at 3. Wow. What would you be willing to add on top? The 103 to the 101? Pretty close, because that's why he wants to trade back.
I don't know that, like, again, unless you're like trying to add a quarterback, I don't know how much more value a quarterback is going to have in a 10-team super flex with a start 2 tight end than Bowers is. Like, if he wants to move back, I'd like what or I mean, he can take Bowers at 101 and then you're happy too. Like, I don't know that I would do that. Like, does that, like, game theory wise, like, okay, you're sitting at 103, right? He wants to move back or make that move and then take Bowers. That would be fun.
Give him Reed and the 103 and then take Bowers at 101. That would be cold-hearted. Yeah. I don't think you have to make that trade. And it's where it's a tier of picks. Yeah, we're saying try to trade back if you want someone other than Caleb Williams, but it's going to be a difficult trade when you try to make it because it's a tier of picks. And you get to hold his feet to the fire same way someone else would hold yours. Like, it's not really that different, dude.
And if you do want Caleb Williams, and like if he will take Deshaun Watson with the 103 to get Caleb Williams, if you need a quarterback, like, yeah, I'd do that. Whatever. I think Deshaun Watson is washed.
There you go. I don't hate it. Yeah. 12 teams will flex. Give love, get the 104. Is Jazz still here? Um, 104 on a Superflex. You probably could get a quarterback there, to be fair, between
You
Mayer,
definitely can.
Williams, and this Lamar Jackson clone. Um,
I mean, 6'3", 185, Peter.
I would, but it's not necessarily to take a quarterback. It's because I'm not in the love train, but it's probably below value.
It is.
Yeah.
Love is a top 10 right now, I would say. Maybe 12.
Yeah, I might ask for a plus just to keep the value fair. Yeah, again, he's finishing as a top 6 quarterback this year or something.
Yep.
Young in Green Bay, they've got a history of this. Whatever you have to throw out. What would you want for Love? Or not what would you want? What would you push for to give someone love to get in this year's rookie draft? The 104 plus. So I'm pretty happy with the 104. So any plus is like, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, like you probably can. You probably should get something else.
Probably should, but I don't know where I'd draw the line because I'm pretty happy with 104 personally. But it's definitely below value. There you go. C-Mac, we're going to have to get out of here soon. How do you guys value Devontae Smith? Highly. And the Hertz owner was thinking of saying the 108 and the 201 to get him. I would love that trade. Yeah, if you can get him for the 108 plus, I say, yeah, sure. Yeah, I would do that.
Yep.
Oh, Gavin,
and I think you might be able to.
First in a heartbeat for the 104. Thank you, Gitch. He gets it.
Yeah, but I understand draft capital. I also do my own like film work, and draft capital is fine. But if I don't like a player and he gets draft capital, it doesn't make me like the player anymore. It just means that he got draft capital. He's going to get playing time. But if I don't think he's good, him getting playing time doesn't help. And if he is good, if I think a player is good and they get draft capital, that's great. If I don't think a player is good and they get draft capital, like I'm not dropping them down because I don't think they're good. They're staying kind of where they are, but I'm not going to like move a player up because he got draft capital. Like I'll move a player down if they don't get draft capital.
I'll adjust because of expectation and my history of being wrong. Everyone's got one. But they won't exponentially grow my expectations. The players that increase in my ranks but decrease in my interest in them at those ranks, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Depends which ranking list you're looking at, because I tend to create context with my rankings. There's players I like at value, and there's players that should be valued here. That's why notes are good. Gavin Ferguson got the 104 and 101 and 104. Probably ended up trading on the clock. Been thinking about going for MJH at the 1 and a QB at 3, or even Nabas at 4. With that landing spot, I look at Nabas in the same tier as a QB2 or QB3.
Yeah,
right there for me. Yeah, he's in around that's the tier. Yeah, seem like solid plans. I wouldn't sketch out your draft in pen. Is all I'm going to say at this point. Like, pencil it all in. The draft changes a lot, and also values change. North, you might learn something you do or don't like about different players, and so on and so forth. I find getting too set in your idea too early can make you make a decision on the clock, for example, that you later regret. But I think this is a solid, rough sketch of where you want to be and the type of players they're interested in. All of them sound great. Yeah. 12 team Superflex PPR tight end premium 1.5. Give Brees, get the 108 Pickens, Quentin Johnson, and Spears. No, man.
I don't want to do that.
Brees Hall. Don't give someone a chance to get out of Quentin Johnson. Spears and Pickens are nice, and the 108 cool, but
it just seems like an awful lot to, like an awful lot of pieces to give up Brees for. Like,
in piecing out Brees Hall.
Yeah. Like I want better pieces, and not that. I mean, I guess it depends on what you think of Spears, but I still think it's Brees.
Yeah, pretty easily for me. I would have the 103 plus to even begin discussion, especially in 1 point per reception.
Yeah.
For Hall, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I like Gerard Mayo. Like, I think Gerard Mayo's fine, but like you had Belichick and now you have Belichick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a guy who played under Belichick and coached under Belichick, and the succession plan was okay. We're going from Belichick to Mayo. I think, to me, in the NFL, if you have a coach and that coach goes stale, you got to completely pivot. And I don't necessarily think that Gerard Mayo is a complete pivot, since he is a disciple of Belichick. And like, yeah, he probably lands with the players better. Like, he probably is able to communicate a little bit better with them. Like, Belichick is pretty frosty. He doesn't dole out praise. But I also think that a lot of what Gerard Mayo brings, he got from Belichick. And so, like, you had Belichick. Belichick is going to be the best Belichick that anybody can be. Like, that's just kind of the way that goes. So going to, like, the guy who is trying to be Belichick but isn't Belichick, that's not a direction that I want to go. And it has nothing to do with Gerard Mayo. I think Gerard Mayo is probably fine. But you're trying to keep that culture. You're trying to me, it feels like Jonathan Kraft is Gatsby looking across the lake at that light and saying, what do you mean you can't repeat the past? Of course you can with this move. And I don't want to repeat the past. I want to move in a different direction. And I don't think it did.
Zach with the hot takes. He hates Mayo.
I like Mayo, but like, huh.
They're little sized hammers.
Like little ball peen hammers. Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, ball peen hammers. That's technically correct. They're rock hammers. Got it.
Yeah.
Braylon Allen will start wars, I see.
Perhaps. I think he's going to be better than people think he is. Although I've also seen, like, Addison Hayes has him as his running back one. So, like, I've also seen people be higher than I am. I think Blake Corum's probably the best running back in the class.
So Genji hates Jamar, so officially Jamar season, I guess. Let's go hunting. Puka is everyone's wide receiver 5, right? I've got him at 7, hoping to be under most. Like, he should be up there, though. Yeah, JJ, CD, Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka.
Well, I'm here to tell you he's below Marvin Harrison.
Marvin Harrison's an interesting
Marvin Harrison's
one.
not even in the league, and he's below, so he's at least 6.
AJ Brown, I would say.
AJ Brown, yeah.
Keep in that category. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, he was good. Like, don't, like, that's not a, but relax.
Frankie says. 1 QE S9 12 team. Give Jahan Dotson. Sure.
I think we did this one already. Sure. We said do that.
It's slightly different, I think. But yeah, still, yeah. Dig them on 25 first. Yeah. Actually, I think that is the same. How much should I trade and get while downgrading from Burrow to Kyler? You're trading up. Dude.
Yeah.
All right. Currently, the deal is Burrow at my 25 first, plus Hopkins for Kyler, Reed.
Yes.
Ayuk, Roshan. Yeah, Kyler side for me, please.
Yeah.
Personally, I have Kyler rather than Burrow, so I might be the wrong person to ask, but yeah, I would do that deal.
I'd rather have Kyler than Burrow, or at least it's a push, and I'd rather have everything in that pack. Like, I think Reed has been good. And then Ayuk, I'd rather have that side. So
me too. Superflex 12 teams start 10. Traded my 111 and 112 for Nico Collins. Yeah, that's the type of trade we were talking about. It's like, I don't want the 111 and 112. I don't really want Collins, but it's fair-ish.
I'd rather have Collins than those picks, but yeah.
That's about even with me. I'm rebuilding and have Stroud, nice. Still hold the 102 and 105 and 8 future first. Well, then what's the risk, really? You got the player you like. That's cool. 4 first round wide receivers in 23. None of them were in the top 4 points per game of rookie wide receivers. I'd be surprised if Addison wasn't in the top 4 rookie wide receivers. He was a first round pick.
I don't know.
No?
I mean, he was a first round pick, but I don't know what the
23 draft round. JSN, Jordan Addison, and Zay Flowers were all in the first round. Zay Flowers should be up there too, right? What's their points per game so far, which should just be year 1 for obvious reasons.
Oh, because of because it was Puka,
Jaden
Reed,
Rashi Rice. Okay,
Tank
yeah,
Dell.
we're pushing the late round pushes, and then Jordan Addison, then Zay Flowers. Okay, that's a technicality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 13 points per game the whole season versus Rashi Rice coming on, but whatever. 13 points per game also. Whatever. But yeah, still solid. Yeah. Genji, buy low on all 4. No. You're done. We are done on the Dynasty grind. Like I was a little hesitant on Quentin Johnson to begin with. No, we don't buy failing rookie wide receivers. Quentin Johnson was strongly in that category. No. Now, Zay Flowers, JSN, sure, but they actually had positive rookie seasons, so that's different. But Quentin Johnson, no.
Yeah.
No, not for me, please. Yeah, he's the only one. Yeah. Philip J. Fry. I love that show. 12 decent flex PPR start, 10 trainer with the 103, the 25 first. Yeah. And let's not project, but cool. Plus Deontay for Puka, the 107, the 25 second. 103 for Puka. A little high, but it's okay. Not getting Harrison at the 103.
I don't want to do that.
Not getting Harrison at the 103, though. It's never.
You're either getting Harrison or one of the top 2 quarterbacks.
True.
Or if you want Bowers, like whatever. But
25 first. 107. 107. Yeah, it's tough. In a super flex, I'll probably lean the side with the quarterback just to simplify it, and that is the 103 side, so sure. But I think it's a little more even for me, but I'll lean the 103 side.
I mean, it's not a bad trade for sure, but I still think that the 103 kind of swings it.
It's the shiny thing. I'm in California. I work. It's nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm wrong. Sorry. I wish JSN was better this year, like 9 points per game. Are you seriously, JSN? Well, his points per game were different towards the second half of the season. That's one of the things you can pay attention to for rookies as well. They often come on better towards the second half or even the fourth quarter. It's really about whether they cross those thresholds. What do I have his points per game at? Did I say 8 points per game for the season? Yeah, that kind of sucks, 8.8. But he did come on differently. Towards the end of the season, he's going to end up with a 16% target share, 16-point target share per game as well. His ADOT was ridiculously low for the season. Yeah, we kind of expected muted but solid passing of thresholds, which is kind of what he managed with DK and Tyler Lockett on the team. But yeah, that's why I'm a little more hesitant, but I'm still kind of in. I'm not fence sitting. I'm on the JSN side of the fence, but my back's up against the fence because I know these things can get pretty rough pretty quick. That's all. It's right to be hesitant, but just try to be a little confident in it. You guys love my comps. We do
I love
love
comps.
them.
I love comps anyway. Like they're my favorite.
Yeah, they do. They do entertain. Metcalf, 100 more, and Dawson Knox. Yeah, yeah.
False.
Three players that probably play in the NFL. Probably.
Oh no,
Gabe
it
Davis,
wasn't. It
no.
was there was another guy. It wasn't Elijah Moore and Dawson Knox at that point that were the real. There was another guy who only did back shoulder, like they only threw back shoulder fades to him on the sideline.
All right.
I'll get it for you just a minute. Sorry, carry on, Peter.
Gabe Davis and Noah Brown, who has no particular value for me, for the 308, the 401, and the 408. These picks don't have a lot of value, but if you can collect a bunch of them, you can take a whole bunch of shots at different running backs, and suddenly you're looking at a different proposition. So I kind of like the package. Gabe Davis is the best flex you're probably ever going to get out of this level of value, though. So I might judge it based on my team, but pretty even.
I want Noah Brown and Gabe Davis for that. The 308, 401, and 408. Yeah.
I was going to say Gabe Davis, and then I was thinking about, I love collecting a whole bunch of third and fourth round picks and just drafting every running back, and then you get the one, and that's better than Gabe Davis, but you would have to get more than just, you'd have to do it with more than just three. So yeah, Gabe Davis.
DeMarcus Lodge was the guy that was the two. Yeah. A lot of people liked him. It was funny.
Some people like Lodge. I'm like, no, of the three, and I have questions about all three, but Lodge is the one I definitely do not like.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis, Noah Fant for the three. Yeah, it's still the Davis side here, dude. Yeah. For a pretty good roster, Gabe Davis is the best possible thing you can add at that value for sure. Outside of just snagging one of those one-hit wonders, which you really don't want to go betting on in general in Dynasty, or I don't. Especially on a contending team, you're looking for that flex hammer, and he's it. Gabe Davis is not depth. Yes, he is. Also, Waddle or the 103. Waddle's in that category of, I think he's above that line, but is a fairly decent trade into a Waddle. Like, I like a Waddle. I've got him in that CD Lamb tier of wide receivers, although slightly below CD Lamb and Amon Ra. So I would prefer the Waddle side here. But it's the 103 in a Superflex draft. It's a really good.
No, you're saying non-Superflex. So you're looking at
non-Superflex. Oh,
you're looking at Bowers or Neighbors.
Bowers. Yeah, I'll take one.
Yeah, it's
Gabe
close.
Davis is a black hole on your roster. he's a shining star in your flex spot, I maintain. Playing a shallow league so he doesn't sniff my lineup. Oh, well, I probably.
I mean, if you're actually him to not play him, then don't
I think Gabe Davis gets play even in the shallow league in the flex spot. He's literally one of the few capable of putting up those 40-point games in a random week.
Yeah.
But if that's the way you feel about it, I probably wouldn't do it. Might as well just use those picks on running backs, which is what I said. Stop stealing my line in advance, Genji. 1 QB PPR double flex. Nice. Full rebuild. I have an offer to trade the league winner, the 25 first for Boyd, Schultz, Rogers, Palmer, Pierce. 2/3 this year. Thoughts?
Yeah. No.
I want the first.
Yeah.
Like handily.
Yeah. Like the only piece of that I want is Schultz, and he's not worth the first.
Yeah, just keep the first there, dude. I know there's not really any player. Like, I love Boyd. You will not find many people saying that, but I actually love Tyler Boyd as a player, and he can definitely be a top 24 wide receiver again before his sun has set. That doesn't have first round value in the slightest. And Schultz is startable at tight end, and Zach personally loves him. Nothing else in this trade ever starts, and none of it really has value. Like, Boyd has third round pick value, and I think that's one of the shinier thing in here. Why are you considering trading a first for a package of thirds? Yeah. They don't add up to firsts, no matter how many of them you have. I kind of see where you're coming from, Matt, but like I think it's way, way, way too low. personally. Yeah, but you're not starting a lineup next week, and that first has a much better chance of grabbing a Tank Dell or a Devon A Chain, or it's the only thing that has a chance of being that level of player. Tank Sam Laporta went in that range this year, dude. And this draft class is pretty solid. Like there are shots down there you want, and also that first is going to be easier to trade for another player that fits into your category of this is a good player.
Yeah.
Like those players never trade to anyone else. You go and add something to Boyd for something, and everyone rejects it, no matter what it is. Like they don't have value, even though some of them are pretty good players. No, Matt, not even a single QB. That's bad. That's right. You said a bad word, so I'm not gonna, because I don't swear. Come on, Matt. That's what I was thinking, but that's why I come back and seek opinions. Yeah, that's cool, man. And to be fair, you can still do the trade if you actually liked it, but like we're gonna try our best to lay out what we think. But everyone can do what they want, and I got a lot wrong, so maybe Boyd. Don't know why I'm going down this path. Appreciate you asking, Matt, and yeah, it's always cool to think differently too. The JSN excuses will continue. Those that drafted him, what did you hope him to become? A wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1? Wide receiver 1, and my expectations, I set out pretty clearly my expectations for rookie wide receiver, and he crossed most of them, except for the points per game, which is the most important, but he did do it towards the second half of the season when he actually got more play. He was earning the routes and he was earning the targets rates that you would kind of expect most of the season.
Yeah.
I think the benchmark I set before the season was literally 16% target share, so or 700 receiving yards, right? Puff pass kick. Good evening, gents. The word on the street is that the wide receiver talent in this class is deep. How deep do you think it is? Are there any Tay 2 guys outside the big names you're interested in? Not, I don't have any names like that yet.
Don't know yet.
So far, there are 3 that I really like, and a couple that I'm interested in. I don't know if that's deep or not. Zach, I think you've named like 6 or 7 that you're.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because Puff Pass Kick and I have been in a DM, and he asked me a similar thing, and I said, like, so far of the players that I've watched, again, like Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., Odunze, Tez Walker, Troy Franklin, and then you get into like guys that I don't mind drafting, but I'm not going to like pay up with McConkey and Leggett. And then once we get there, I think that there's a pretty substantial like meh. Like there'll probably be players that will be okay, but good luck identifying who they are.
Yeah, I like Harrison, Neighbors, Worthy. I'm not sure exactly where they fall when I get through everything, but right now those are the 3 that I like a lot. Jermaine Burton needs investigation. Brian Thomas is 4th in my list so far, so I think he's interesting. Troy Franklin, Jamar Thrash, Roman Wilson. They all need looking at just based on the model scores. And Worthy's below all of those guys, but I already like him more without having investigated them too much yet. But yeah, it's really just the 3 that stand out. And then, then I've got a tier of players that I have to look into. Rome, Jermaine, Brian Thomas, Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
Raish, apparently.
Franklin's a fun one. He's an interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good enough. But really, it's the 3 that clearly stood out to me straight off the top. I think that's pretty deep. I'm pretty happy if I get like 2, and Marvin Harrison is just a step above what you can normally expect in the wide receiver 1 spot, so that's nice. Genji, Matt, you're better off just tanking, get the 101 and hold out. Yeah, if you're talking about the guy who was like, I don't have much on my team, yeah, just enter full build mode, man, which is why another reason why a first is good. I would trade it for future first with the package up. And honestly, if we didn't even mention this, I probably should have thought of saying it. Matt, if this is what you have in your team, you don't have much, especially in a 1 QB, 2 is your best piece. So Downs is probably your best piece. You're building, and that's okay. But you don't trade first for a plethora of I might be able to get some points out of in my flex spot. Again, from that perspective, that has no value.
Don't part out your value unless you're getting value
more
like that. Like that's the thing, and you're not.
Like
you're
first
not
this year for a first and a second this year and a first next year is better to you than a package that is worth a first, even if that package was worth a first, which it isn't. Because you're just trying to build value so you can have more players, more things that more people are interested in to get more things that can actually improve your team. And just go to building, man. It's cool. I got a couple of teams like that. It's not about being good at Dynasty is moving in the right direction accurately as you can, but strongly. It's not about the direction you're moving in doesn't mean you're bad at Dynasty. It's not actively moving in that direction, I think. Genji, Matt, you're better off. Yeah, he said that. Joshua, hey, welcome back. Laporta, the Dynasty tight end 1/2. In tight end premium, I'm not moving him unless I get a King's France. That's kind of where I'm at. The value might not quite be that, but like I've got him in a few leagues, obviously, and I've considered trades because when's there a better window on a rookie tight end who just absolutely smashed? But like I can't think of a trade that makes sense for my teams, even the building ones where I'm like, I should probably just keep Laporta.
Does it?
It's really hard.
Does it change, Peter, the fact that there isn't or there wasn't this past year because Kelsey came back to earth? There wasn't a tight end that separated themselves from the pack. So now instead of having the meteoric tight end 1 where you gain a big advantage, you got like 6, 7 guys at the top that like you could have played any of them and it would have been the same thing. Even Laporta was great, but in points per game, he was the tight end 3. Like, and again, it's not to say that Laporta is bad. Laporta is fantastic, but I think the landscape of tight end has started to change.
There is no Kelsey Gronk right now. It starts at
so that to me means that the community overvalues the top guys and maybe undervalues like the
Fairmouth.
Yeah, well, no, let's not get that far down, but like Andrews and Hawkinson and Kittle and that group, and Evan Ingram is still just wildly undervalued, but whatever.
Gavin Ferguson, yes, not year 1, but he was clearly better than Wilson in Alive in college. They admitted it themselves.
Oh, JSN, yeah, whatever. I don't care about that, but
yeah. I expected JSN to be good at the least. I think he was, but all right. Caleb Williams 101 in Superflex rookie draft. Period. Yeah, that's the default. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Oh God, we've got so many. I gotta go to bed, guys. I'm speed reading. Is taking Marvin 101 over Williams and Superflex not leaning away from Bijan over Stroud and Richardson, or is it apples and oranges? It's kind of apples and oranges because of positional advantages. And again, we said the same thing. You should probably take the quarterback.
Yeah.
But sometimes I will take Bijan Robinson because of positional differences. And this year I'll say the same thing, but differently because it's not a positional advantage. I will take Williams. That will be my default rank and what I would tell people to do because of trends. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is kind of a different level of prospect as wide receiver 1. It's completely fair to take him there if you just want to have your YOLOs on a Marvin Harrison Jr. I think you should try to do other things. You should take Williams, but it's Dynasty. It's a fun sport. Let's go. I asked that question before, and Pete said he doesn't know much about this class several times. Less chess, more grind, Peter. It's more working, but okay. Coming now, it's rookie evaluation pick season. Yeah, I'm evaluating the picks, not the players. You see how I sneak that one in, and now I've given you 3 solid opinions. kind of. I return regardless. Yeah. Look
I
forward to
want
it.
I
Stephen,
want
what?
more than a 25 first to go from 101 to 104. 104 now you don't have Caleb Williams, you don't have May, you don't have Marvin Harrison.
No. It's Neighbors of Brock Bowers, right?
Yeah. And like I like Neighbors and Brock Bowers, but that's a big move down.
Fair enough. No. I agree, Kevin. Now, JSN has been good with what he has had for opportunity. Yeah. And he had some bad games, but he pulled it together towards the end, which is really what I'm looking for. He's had more big plays, showed flashes while catching 63 passes. That's what you hope for from a rookie stuck behind two good vets. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah. Maybe now, but the difference is going to be much bigger when you're on the clock, I promise. He's talking about that trade the same way you just did.
And it gets, and it's going to get bigger. And it already
Everyone
is
just
bigger.
ask Gavin or Gedgy. Yeah. We're good. I'm rooting for Lockett too. I don't care. I can root for everyone. It helps. It works for me. Still, it would be nice to see JSN could have overtaken a 31-year-old receiver.
Who's a
perennial. I mean, you
perennial.
just got to get the idea that 31-year-olds can't be good. Like Hopkins just dominated. AJ Brown. Never going to convince you this is true, but old players are still good. Why are you sure about Addison with the QB situation? Because I don't wait in QB situation as much, but it's an interesting question in terms of what effect that will have. He just needs league average passing, and I think it'll be solid. Garrett Wilson had a below league average situation. It was still pretty impressive and pretty good. He wasn't everything we expected, but he was still pretty good. Entering his second season, you can expect something of a volume jump just innately because of the way the position works. And that should counterbalance a little bit whatever the QB situation ends up being. And again, I'm just hoping for league average. He had 13 points per game this year. Any kind of improvement in his volume situation should put him between 14 and 16 points per game, which would be you'd feel a dramatic effect in his points per game next season.
I mean, his quarterbacks, the kind of carousel of quarterbacks that went.
I mean, he had Zach Wilson for games. That's really all you had to say. I mean, Zach.
Oh no, but I'm talking about Addison. Like Addison basically played with the Sisters of the Poor School for the Blind at quarterback. Like it was very bad after Cousins went down.
We should have been saying by Garrett Wilson on a bunch of these questions, by the way. His name just
he should. I mean, I never think of him because he shouldn't be undervalued, but he probably is.
Yeah, he probably is at this point. Yeah. So go back, edit that in. Garrett Wilson on the trade for question. Puka Dell did it. Sure did. 16 points per game. And Zay Flowers to an extent. Oh, he's just reeling off the top 5. Yeah. I forgot Rice would have been in that top 4.
Yeah, Rashi, baby. Woohoo!
But the thing is, I think JJ helps Addison, and Addison helps JJ. Yeah. We've been through this.
Good players are good for each other.
4 teams every year have 2 top 24 wide receivers, and I think Minnesota will again be one. I'm not out on JSN or
Dobbs,
I just wish
Mullins, and Jaron
this
Hall.
year for fantasy.
Yeah.
There you go. Pete was letting Lockett ride into the sunset no matter. Yes, I was. Yes. Unless there was a serious injury. Old school.
No, not you. The other Pete. Yes. The gum chewing Pete.
But yeah, whatever. Thanks for the thoughts. No problem, Nolan. And remember, they are literally just thoughts from 2 guys who play the game. And you're a person who plays the game too, so your thoughts are valid too. But happy to bounce ideas. Yes, teams give seniors playing time. I think in college it's a specific thing. Like, again, there's a lot to learn by the time you get to college, and it's just it's an innate learning. The NFL is a huge learning curve too, don't get me wrong, but like you're gonna lean on your vets in that situation because they're developed, they know the system, they're meant to mentor the kids and show them how to, like most teams are going to just innately, even if they don't have a policy of having guys who are already pretty good and some going off into the NFL. So you want them to have the ball to show the NFL what they can do anyway. There's going to be difference there, which is kind of why it's so striking. Part of why it's so striking when it doesn't. It goes to the 18-year-old. Like that's pretty impressive. Yes, teams give seniors playing time. I hate guys like that, to be honest. Me? Yeah, me too. I heard Debo and Burks.
For Leggett, yeah. And again, I like he's right. Like he's right. He's going to be probably a second, maybe a third round rookie pick. Like I'm not drafting him in the first. I probably would be a later second. They're going to be running backs that I want ahead of Leggett. There are going to be a few running backs that I want ahead of Leggett.
Ginger, right, but all those guys had extended opportunity open to them from injuries. Any sleepers in the draft, Zach? We're not really at sleepers yet, but apparently we'll just keep saying Xavier Worthy until we prove him wrong.
I don't think Tez is a sleeper, or he shouldn't be. Like I really like Devontae Walker like a lot. I know that he's older, and I know he had some eligibility issues, and like he did, like his first year was he deferred his first year, so he came in 2019. Went to East Tennessee State, but hurt his knee, so he deferred his first year. Ended up at North Carolina Central. Their season was canceled by COVID in 2020. Transferred to Kent State, played 2 years at Kent State, transferred to UNC, but then they weren't sure whether they were going to let him play or not. The NCAA doing NCAA things. But like he's legit, and I think that Peter, he's going to be one that the numbers miss because he played partial seasons but was really good in partial seasons.
No, he's let's see, he's 11th overall in my model and scored a 2.9 on something I call a production score, which is pretty positive.
Yeah. Okay.
There's some stuff I hadn't stood out to me because the boxes didn't go green, but looking across the numbers because you're saying it. Yeah. 118 QB targeted rating, 2.5 yards per route run. That's a career average. 1.5 receiving yards per team pass attempt is low, but again, apparently the context is going to provide some level in that. And he's a positive age adjusted receiving yards per team pass attempt.
So what he did in this season where he was like I can't remember if he was like first in yards and second in targets or whatever, vice versa. He did that in half the games.
Right.
So like everybody else got all the games, and he was like first in yards and second in targets in half the games. So like to me, that's a pretty impressive season. Yeah. And like watching him play, like he like reads cushion. He does a whole bunch of things that I really, really like. So
he was born in June. I have a soft spot for those guys.
He's going to be 23. He's going to be 23, but whatever.
A lot of these guys are. It's a slightly older class. That's what it is.
It's funky with the COVID and that sort of thing. But
second round draft cap. Lad McConkey, my favorite sleeper. Now, apparently, Brock Bowers is the only thing you can see when you try to watch.
Whenever I watch Lad McConkey, all I can think of is the Aladdin, where the genie comes up. He's like, "Laddie, here, boy, come on, Laddie."
That's a hell of a reference, Zach. I like it. Best rookie wide receivers of all time. He was better than good Zach. Not the best rookie season of all time. I'm pretty sure that's still Odell Beckham, perhaps.
No,
Justin Jefferson.
No, I think he did total yards from scrimmage. I think he got that.
Okay. Good. That's not really how I measure it, but that's cool.
Yeah, no, I know you're talking Puka again, Kevin, but still, that's fine.
I think you're underrating how strong wide receiver 7 in Dynasty is meant to be.
Yeah,
like that's a pretty hard rank.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I saw Blake Corum go 303 in a mock draft today and thought about you, Zach.
I'm taking him probably mid-late first in a super play. Like Corum goes in the first round for me, as long as he goes in the second round of the NFL draft.
Nice. Mystic Flame, 12 teams with like start 11. Hertz, Kyler team is such. He has a 109 and a 111, 2 late seconds, 2 late thirds. What should I do next? Looking across your team, no weakness at QB, an extra Bryce Young, which is terrible. Your running backs, wide receivers are really good up top. I think pretty solid in the middle, but you want more high upside. I mean, preferably you have 4 great wide receivers, so maybe work there. But it's clearly your running backs who need the most work, but you don't have to worry about that until the season gets here. But Breece Hall seems to be going a little bit of value. So does Saquon Barkley. I think Najee Harris is interesting this time of year. So is Austin Eckler. It's kind of a buy running back market in the offseason, but you got to do it cautiously because they're running backs.
If you can get into Kyron Williams for like the 109 or 111, like I'm into that.
Interesting. Those are the type of players I'd be looking at for your team. You don't have to make a trade for a running back, and you definitely don't have to do it right now. Running backs can get draft smushed as well, which is another concern.
Yeah, but the problem is if you're gonna trade for a running back with this team, you probably have to trade it before your rookie draft, because once you draft those players, it really narrows down the field of your trade.
Yeah, I would go see where some of the players we just mentioned, Breece, Saquon, go look at their rosters. Even a CMC, if he's on a worse team, like that guy is old, but so good. So if he's on the wrong team, I'll go look at where the running backs that you would most like to add are in your league and which rosters are the most open to potential lower value first round picks, and see if you could construct a team that way. Because literally running backs, not a concern, but it's where you need to build, and it's a really interesting build running back off season. But don't do it willy-nilly, because your picks are solid and running backs are difficult buys. Yeah. Maybe swing them by us or your favorite Dynasty analyst on Twitter or wherever you go. No problem, buddy. Thanks very much. Zach, you answered my question beautifully. He always does. He said it. I know I don't need to, but someone offered me Herbert for the 109 and the 111. Do it anyway?
Like
3
Justin?
hammers?
Yeah, do it.
Justin Herbert. Yeah. I mean, QB seem a little cheap in your league. Sometimes I would adjust for the draft valuation, but it's Justin Herbert. So no, just get Justin Herbert. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Or trade for Garrett Wilson. See, we forgot to say the name again. Garrett Wilson would be an interesting one to target. Garrett Wilson not undervalued in my leagues. Like Rodgers played. Yeah.
And that was kind of my thing. Like, I don't think he's undervalued. So, like, I wasn't mentioning him, but if he's undervalued, then absolutely. Like, he's a player that
I don't hear about him a lot, but that just doesn't mean anything, to be fair. I just want to mention him. I think he's going to hit the breakout list this year, so I better start saying him. 12 teams to flex start 11. Traded away Trevor Lawrence for 103. Addison for JJ. It's heavy.
Yeah, but that, I mean, it is, but it's Justin Jefferson.
It's that gif where she keeps making a sad face, but then, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that's my answer to this. Like,
try the kombucha. Yeah.
Well, you tried other things. I mean, and you got Justin Jefferson, so I don't think you should be too sad. But I think you went about it the exact right way, mystically. When you're trying to make that kind of move. Puka owner offered me Puka for JSN, the 104 and 1 QB. No,
I mean, I'd do that, I think.
In a 1 QB? Nah, man.
I mean, the 104 and 1 QB. So you're not getting Bowers, you're not getting Marvin Harrison, you're not getting Neighbors.
Mm-hmm. So I want Puka.
I'd do Puka. Yeah, I'd take Puka there.
Yeah. I don't weigh the environment a player is in. I consider it, but no, it's not moving me on or off. Again, you only have to get AJ Brown and Corey Davis once, And you never forget it. You never forget it, really. Ryan Tannehill was good enough. That's it. Cameron Ferguson, yards and catches. Yeah, baby. It would essentially be JSN plus Bowers for Puka. The 101 to the 103 are all confirmed. Yeah, that makes sense. Especially in a 1 QB. I'm not taking the running backs, put it that way. Yeah,
I mean, I would take Bowers over to me, there are 2 top receivers and then Bowers. So, but I still think I'd probably take Puka.
And that's coming from the guy who likes Sam Laporta. Don't forget.
I do. Well, especially if it's not tight end premium, like whatever.
What's Tez Walker's highest dominator rating?
6. I don't know.
Max rushing dominator? Hang on, I know this. I got that. I mean, you know it too. You've got my spreadsheet. 50.2, which is pretty dang high at age 21. But I think that can't be per game. I don't do per game dominator. Man, that's high.
At Kent State?
Yeah, it's because of a 64% of the receiving touchdowns that year. Dominator's screwed us if that's something. Go to bed, fellas. I'm trying, JC Troller. I love you. And they have no interest in Bowers for some reason in the 103. Well, that's an opportunity for you, my friend. And Dunce. Pretty solid profile. Again, he's on the list.
Look at. Just take Puka. Just take Puka.
Just take Puka from him and be like, good. Just watch it. Just take the banana and watch the apes fight. It'll be fun. Yeah. Not tight end premium when I have Andrews and McBride.
Take Puka.
Nice.
Take Puka.
Absolutely.
Pete, quick. Look over there.